You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion new single, my hater, the big better put on the road, I just spit. I know we got $1 million, the devil, that shit, and I chip it again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 11th part of What If Naruto Enters Undertale? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Hey you poor lighteners, we were told to keep you imprisoned for eternity, too bad. An unknown voice said. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, blinking many times in the process as his vision was blurry. Would have loved to see you guys punished. Ha ha ha. The person shut metal doors and he heard footsteps gradually fade away. When the footsteps started to get lower and lower, his senses came back. Naruto groaned as he slowly got back up but was feeling slight pain from his shoulders that's aching and even noticed several scratches all over his body as his memories came back to him after getting knocked out by the guards. Ow, okay, that could have gone a lot worse. Now where am I? Naruto thought to himself as he surveyed his surroundings, finding himself in a cell, which means he must be in a dungeon somewhere below the castle. Well, that's just great. We came so close only to be caught and get thrown in a cell. Just my luck, he mumbled to himself as he peers through the cell bars, but there's nothing to see beyond. Suddenly he recalled the fate of Ralsei and Suzy and wondered what happened to them. Suddenly he heard groaning sounds behind him and to his relief and worry, it was Ralsei who has just woken up from being knocked unconscious. Oh well, this is a fine how do you do, isn't it, Naruto, said Ralsei as she tried to think positive while rubbing her left arm. Never mind about me, are you alright? Are you injured anywhere? Naruto asked in worry as he checked her for any signs of injuries, seconds from opening the grimoire to search for any healing glyphs to apply to the princess. I'm okay, Naruto, really, she assured him with a smile which eases Naruto's concern for her well-being, just a bit. Imprisoned for eternity, that sounds like it might take a while, Ralsei spoke, realizing their situation. Despite the possibility of being locked in a cage for the rest of their lives, Naruto thought positively. Well, don't get too comfortable, we won't be staying here in this cell for much longer. We're getting out of here one way or another. I just need to figure out how we can get out of this situation, he told Ralsei, reassuring her that he'll find a way to break them out. While he was brainstorming on how they could escape their cell, Ralsei was inspecting the cell as well. Then she turned to him with a concerned face. And Suzy? Where's Suzy? We have to find her, Naruto, before she gets hurt. Ralsei panicked upon realizing that the pink monster wasn't among them. Or, hurt someone else. Maybe there's something we can use to escape within here. Relax, Ralsei, I'm already working on figuring out how we could break out. Also, I'm not all that worried about Suzy as of now. She's capable of handling herself. I wouldn't even be surprised if she already managed to break out of her own cell on her own. We need to worry about ourselves if we can make it out of this mess, Naruto said as he calmed her down while looking around to find anything useful or at least find something that could get them out of here. Ralsei was a little upset that Naruto wasn't worried about Suzy, but she doesn't blame him for feeling that way considering what she did to her and Naruto, especially Naruto. She truly hoped they would become friends soon. Anyway, Naruto looked around for something useful to escape, but to his disappointment, nothing seemed to be useful in a cell at first. This is a sorry excuse for a cell. Can we really call this a prison? There's literally nothing in here other than these shackles on the wall, thought Naruto, as he clearly doesn't see anything that'll get them out of here. Still, he doesn't plan on giving up any time soon as he continues inspecting any little thing that could be useful to break out. While he inspected every little detail he could find, he heard Ralsei speak to him, which caught his attention. Naruto, I know this might seem like a bad situation, but I know you can figure something out. Thanks, Ralsei, I appreciate your faith in me, Naruto said, giving her a smile while refocusing on his task. He started walking around for about 20 seconds looking. He found some moss on the floor near the hall. He went there to inspect it. It was green and quite mossy. He doesn't know why, but for some unexplained reason, he has this immense urge to try it out, and he doesn't know why he wishes to try it. Why the heck would I suddenly want to eat moss? That's just gross. It's like some unforeseen force is trying to make me try some and it's weirding me out. I better steer clear from that and focus on finding a way out of here and not subjecting myself into eating something weird off the floor no matter how edible it may appear to be, thought Naruto as he tears his gaze away from the moss and resumes the task at hand. Anyways, he continued to search for anything that could help him get out. He saw a cracked wall that was damaged and had a hole. He looked through the hole and inside was more wall. Naruto sighed at this and looked yet again for something else he could potentially find. Behind Ralsei, who was currently playing with some rocks and not paying attention to him as she's waiting for him, were some shackles which for some reason piqued his curiosity. Naruto came over to the shackles to inspect them when a text popped up in front of him. These shackles seem oddly fashionable. Take them? Yes/no. Didn't exactly expect to find these shackles fashionable, but whatever, I'll just take them for reasons I guess, thought Naruto, as he decided to just take them by pushing them off the wall, which they're identified as iron shackles which are now placed in his armors. He equipped the iron shackles by placing them on his pulses like bracelets, to which it ironically increases his attack and defense power. At least he's finally got some armor, so he'll be putting it to good use. Seeing that there's nothing else he could find that'll get themselves out of their jail cell, he walks up to Ralsei, which she notices him coming towards her. Oh, what's that on your arms? Did you put on prison shackles? You look like a prisoner for life. Ha. She giggles, wanting to lighten up the mood. Heh, thanks for the compliment. It was literally the only thing I could find in here that could be useful for certain purposes, but unfortunately it's not going to help us get out of this cell, Naruto said, smirking for a bit but soon turned grim seeing there's nothing here that'll get themselves out of this prison. Hearing that made Ralsei look to the floor in slight sadness, for she was hoping Naruto would find something that could help them get out of this situation. Unfortunately that wasn't the case. So you couldn't find anything? Well, Naruto. Let's not give up hope just yet. Naruto just sat on the floor while feeling a bit frustrated with himself. He didn't want to give up, far from it, but at the moment he couldn't see a bright future here given their current situation. Suzy was who knows where and they didn't have anything to help them in this cell. But, if we don't make it for some reason, then I just wanted to say, Naruto looked at Ralsei, wondering what she was going to say. For a moment his heart skipped a beat even though he does have any idea of what she was going to say. I am glad I was able to meet. Hey, idiots. Can you shut up? I'm trying to concentrate. A familiar voice screamed, looking annoyed. Suzy. Naruto thought in slight surprise, since he wasn't the only one. He heard a familiar voice that apparently came from the other side. Suzy. Ralsei asked after almost jumping from the fright. Where are you? I dunno, prison. Seriously though. I'm out of my cell. I sweet-talked the warden into giving me the keys, Suzy explained. Naruto was never happier to hear her voice, but for this case, he'll make it an exception while feeling a bit relieved that she's fine. Suzy. Really? How? Ralsei asked, almost speechless. I invited him to visit the trash can. Anyway, now there's a puzzle in the way, Suzy explained. Okay. Solve it, Suzy. Ralsei cheered for Suzy, then there was silence for a couple of seconds. I don't do puzzles. Hey, how about we just sit tight and wait for Lancer? He lives in the castle, he's bound to come save us, Suzy suggested. Ralsei looked at Naruto with a doubtful expression while he just rolled his eyes since he was expecting that kind of response. Why don't Naruto and I just help you solve the puzzle? Look, I don't need your help, Suzy denied Ralsei's suggestion. But, if you said what to do, out loud, I wouldn't stop you. Naruto, tell Suzy what to do, Ralsei whispered to Naruto, asking him to help Suzy. Naruto didn't show it, but he wasn't exactly pleased with having to help Suzy solve a puzzle, but given how things are going right now, he doesn't have other options. After much thought, he decided to help her, but not before giving her a few words that she's gonna listen whether she wants to or not. Alright, listen up Suzy, because I'm only gonna say this once. I'm gonna guide you into solving a puzzle, but you're gonna listen to my instructions in order to walk you through it. I'm not gonna tolerate any more of your nonsense, and you need to start taking this whole thing seriously. You want help? Follow my instructions and stop acting like a JRK to everyone around you. Do you understand? He said. After telling Suzy what she needs to hear, Naruto didn't need to know that she was going silent for a moment while sensing she was seething from being talked down without having to see her. Of course, there was also the fear that he picked up, which it wasn't hard to deduce since she still fears him after what happened back at the forest. Waiting for her response, Suzy finally spoke with a hint of resignation. Fine, I'll stop and listen this time. Just tell me what I gotta do. Seeing this is as close to an answer he's gonna get, Naruto sighed before speaking. Alright, I'll do my best to guide you through it. Just follow my instructions and this'll be a walk in the park for you. Here's what you need to do. And thus he began giving Suzy commands on the puzzle, while Ralsei just let him handle this while feeling a bit happy Suzy is finally cooperating with Naruto, even if it's only for solving a puzzle. 25 minutes later. Yes. We did it. Suzy said happily from her cell after finally solving the puzzle that took her a good long minutes. That's something I honestly wasn't expecting her to say, thought Naruto with a raised eyebrow, because he expected her to take all the credit for herself like she did in the past. Great. Now come and free us, said Ralsei with joy. Alright. Suzy said as Naruto heard her footsteps, which meant she was leaving. Thanks for helping her, Naruto. She appreciates it, Ralsei told him, feeling proud at Naruto for being patient with Suzy. Yeah. I sure hope so. I really do, given how she sounded very genuine when she finally solved her puzzle as I guided her through. Don't want to get my hopes up, but here's hoping she actually listens to my words, he said with indifference, but pleased she listened to his instructions. Guess now we wait until she comes to us. Ralsei watched him sitting down on the floor with worry as she picked up on his wording. She knows there's still some resentment from him, which she understands why, given how Suzy treated both Naruto and herself, especially what happened between the two back at forest. Naruto, do you still not trust Suzy? She asked Naruto, which caught his attention. He stared at her without saying anything before he sighed and nodded. No, I don't. I want to trust her, Ralsei, I really do, but how can I when she's done nothing but treating everything and everyone like this is all but a game to her. Back at the forest, the moment she hurt you and made you cry, that's when I finally lost it. It reminded me how she almost hurt one of my friends back in our world. While she was enjoying herself tossing me around to the ground, ridiculing me just to add salt to the wound, I just snapped the moment she harmed you and me, mostly you. I didn't want you to see me lose my cool and see my bad side. I just couldn't take any more of Suzy's behavior and her actions of causing harm to others. I'm sorry you had to see all that back there at the forest, knowing how my patience stands, Naruto explained, looking away from Ralsei as if he's ashamed of himself for his violent behavior around her. Oh Naruto, Ralsei muttered as her stomach ached at hearing this. She can see that Naruto didn't want to show his bad side around her for her sake, just to maintain his calm and collected self, which she greatly respected him about. Despite all that, it also made her stomach flutter at how protective and caring he was towards her, and how he really didn't want to scare her away should he lose his temper, all because Suzy kept pushing his luck until she went too far and pushing him to the brink, which he really had enough completely. Dare she say she doesn't blame him for acting that way? Naruto didn't say a word while still looking away until he felt Ralsei hugging him. It made him a bit surprised and tense at this before speaking. Ralsei, what are you? It's okay Naruto, please don't beat yourself up for what happened back at the forest. You had every right to be angry. But thank you for trying your best just for me. I really appreciate everything you're doing for me. I'm so grateful to have a friend like you, said Ralsei, blushing for hugging Naruto, but it was for cheering him up. It took him a moment to feel relaxed and then hugged her back, which all the while made her blush more, but it didn't matter to her as the two embraced each other's arms as they hugged out of friendship, love and affection. Thanks Ralsei for cheering me up. Normally that would be my job for that, but I guess not in this case, right? Naruto smiled, jokingly with her just to lighten the mood. Ralsei just giggled at this, maybe not, but I'd learn from the best. Heh, I'll gladly take that as a compliment. The two enjoyed themselves in each other's arms as they had their little moment together, however Naruto knows that all good things must come to an end unfortunately. Alright, I'm feeling better now. As much I would love nothing more than getting hugged by you or just me feeling up your fluffy dark fur of yours, but we should probably start figuring out how we can get ourselves out of our cell, he suggested, with a smirk. Hearing his words made Ralsei blushed deeply at this out of embarrassment and flattery. Oh. You're right. Sorry, she said, after quickly letting him go. No need to apologize, you're fine. Now, Naruto stood up and extended his hand to her, to which she graciously took his offer as he helped her stand back up. Let's figure out how we can leave this place. But should we just wait for Suzy to come to us? Ralsei asked, in confusion. No offense, but there's no guarantee if she'll make it back to us on her own, and there's a chance she'll run into trouble along the way. So we need to figure out on our own of how we can escape our cell. But, how, is the question. Naruto folded his arms, contemplating his thoughts as he brainstormed ways of breaking out of their cell. As he was thinking very deeply about other solutions, he felt a tap on his left shoulder. Not now Ralsei, followed by another tap on his right shoulder. Dude, I said not now. I'm trying to think of a solution here. Then finally he was shook, which got his full attention. Ralsei, what is it? What's so important that you need to keep trying to gain my attention? Naruto, I'm afraid that wasn't me, Ralsei defended herself. Huh? What do you mean it wasn't you? We're the only two people that are sharing this same cell. He questioned her, feeling confused by her response. Before Ralsei could even answer his question, Naruto felt a tap to his right shoulder which got his attention and looked over to see a moving piece of cloth next to him, which was none other than his rager scarf, much to his and Ralsei's surprise. Whoa, is my scarf moving on its own? Naruto questioned himself, to which the scarf nodded as if it understood his question. Wow! That's amazing, Naruto. You have a moving scarf like mine now. But how did it become sentient? It wasn't like that before, Ralsei complimented him but asked in confusion as she was curious about how Naruto's rager is now a sentient scarf. Your guess is good as mine, but I'm starting to think my Magatama might have done something more than giving the old used-up rager a huge overhaul outlook, he concluded from this sudden new development. Now Naruto is certain once he returns back home to the light world, he'll definitely ask Alphys to take a look into his Magatama to run a few tests on it. He needs to know what that stone is capable of before using it again. Clearly it still holds ancient and mystic powers stored within, and he so needs to discover more what its capabilities can do, as well as figuring out what its connections to that monk from his vision he saw before. Before he could ponder it more, he was brought out of his thoughts as he felt his scarf tapping his shoulder to gain his attention. Huh? What is it? Naruto asked in confusion. The scarf then showed him something which to both Naruto and Ralsei's surprise, it was a key that it was holding in front of him. Is that what I think it is? He asked, in shock. The scarf nodded as it confirmed this to him, to which Naruto just wide smiled at this news. That's amazing. How did your scarf come in possession of that key? Ralsei asked while feeling joyfully happy at this. Don't know. My best guess is that it must have snagged it off the guard that brought us to this cell without them knowing while we were unconscious. But that doesn't matter right now. He then faced Ralsei with a determined smirk look on his face while holding the key in front of her. What matters is we're busting out of here. Alright, out of the cell, where to next? Suzy spoke when she left the room, determined to get both Naruto and Ralsei out of prison. After some thinking on where to go, she decided on a choice on which path she's taking. I'll just go this way, Susie murmured to herself and walked to the left. Well, that's a dead end. She was thinking about what to do when she heard a voice from a distance. That's Lancer's voice. She ran until a wall stopped her from going to where Lancer's voice was coming from. DMN, not another one of these. Maybe I should go back and ask Naruto, she said, referring to a puzzle crafted on the wall before her. The solution was written above it, but Susie wasn't seeing it correctly. And make sure that a childish voice was heard again. Lancer, I'll just do it myself, Susie said nervously. She slowly chose the right solution on her own for the first time without Naruto around to assist her, and thankfully in Susie's mind, the wall opened. She immediately ran until Lancer was heard talking. Understand? They have to stay in their cells. The Lightners can't be allowed to escape, Lancer said almost emotionlessly. Especially the purple one. Also, be sure to triple the guards and triple check on the blue Lightner with red hair and yellow stripes. He's just as equally bad, if not 10 times more dangerous than her, but tamed and less provoked or testing his patience, he added, just to be on the safe side after witnessing the brutality the blue Lightner can do when enraged. Lancer? Susie called out to him, confused. The red guard immediately left, remembering the last time he saw the purple monster and heard the rumors from numerous fellow green Rudens about how savage this purple monster has been to them. Susie. What are you doing here? Lancer asked, nervously. Susie walked a little closer. Lancer, Naruto, and Rousei are still locked up. I know. The prince tried to speak but was too nervous. He looked away and sighed. I was the one who told my troops to put you down here. To keep you down here. Forever, he said sadly. Lancer, you wanted to get rid of us? Susie asked, feeling betrayed. I thought we were a team. She looked down to the floor. I can explain, Susie. Susie looked to the ceiling and then to floor again, reflecting on the prince's action. Soon enough a feeling took form in her soul. It was hatred. Nah. It's fine. It's fine, actually. You don't have to say anything. I get it. She walked back and looked to the cell near her with her hands clenched in rage for a couple of seconds. Why would anyone really want to be my friend anyway? The last words echoed in the room, filling it with a tense atmosphere. Susie smiled darkly, seeing Lancer so nervous about what happened. He had a reason, but his action has just turned things upside down. Susie, that's not Lancer said not long after Susie's behavior started to freak him out. Shut up, the reptile refused to let the Darkner talk. Her whole idea of him changed in a few seconds. She was feeling betrayed deep inside. A friend wouldn't betray others. That was what she was feeling, disappointed with, friendship. Her heart cheated when she least expected it. Attacked in the corner of her soul that she had never thought she would be. But shut up. She screamed, not letting Lancer say a single word. She walked to him slowly, intimidating the poor child on the way. She stopped when they were centimeters of him. Get out of my way, the monster demanded, not asked. Lancer didn't reply, refusing to let the girl go. He was afraid of what might happen. Getting madder with each second, Susie slammed her feet strongly on the floor, making Lancer yet scared. Did you hear me? Get out of my way, Susie talked rather high with a terrifying face. And no, Lancer looked to the floor, scared, but still refusing. Hearing this made Susie laugh menacingly. Did you not hear me? Man, I tried to warn you. She walked quickly to the other side of the room, so, don't expect me to feel guilty. Susie then pulls out her axe. When they have to clean you off the floor. Hey, wanna see what happens to traitors? Susie asked, looking at Lancer with a terrifying face as she attacked him by slashing his chest with her axe, doing some tremendous amount of damage to the prince and obligating him to start a fight. Lancer was sent back with the hit but didn't stop Susie from leaving the room. Suddenly out of nowhere, a red soul went straight flying through the room to where Susie was. However, she didn't pay attention to it. Lancer, against his own will, sent some spades to the girl but wasn't putting effort to actually defeat her. The red soul flew to Susie's front and got attacked with one spade. Susie was surprised by the pain she had without getting hit herself and recognized the heart-shaped soul. Naruto's soul. She susurrated to herself and for a second her face changed from mad to perplexed. Why is this here? I can destroy this traitor without it, she finished the thought and focused on Lancer again. They get crushed. She did another slash at him, smiling evilly, and the spade prince winced in pain. The young prince continued to send projectiles at the mean girl with the hopes that she would stop. Susie thought that the soul would defend itself and avoid the attacks, but it did the exact opposite, getting hit twice. Susie groaned in pain, frustrated that her HP was getting low so fast. If you don't get out of the way I'll kill you, she warned and hit Lancer's fragile body again. The prince started to shake in pain but kept on preventing the girl from leaving. Lancer sent more spades horizontally, however Susie didn't manage to avoid them since the soul wasn't doing what she wanted, which resulted in taking damage from it. Susie ignored the pain as she paid no attention to the soul, focusing solely on making Lancer feel pain in every excruciating way possible. Get it? I'll kill you, she threatens him while proceeds to attack the prince harder as the damage begins to increase further. Shakily a bit more from taking a hit, Lancer sent another wave of spade projectiles at Susie's way, which she saw this from a mile away and planned on blocking it. However, the soul refused to let her block the attack, which again, she was forced to take a couple of blunt hits from the spades, making her take damage, much to her already growing anger and annoyance. Frustrated, Susie snatched the soul with her hand when Lancer continually sent more projectiles horizontally in her way. She was prepared to forcefully take the attacks head-on since Naruto's soul prevents her from protecting herself. However, she noticed that Lancer's attacks were off their marks, making her think the prince was missing his target due to taking too much damage by her. Hey, you missed, idiot. Susie taunts him with a sneer before savagely slashing her axe at Lancer. He was starting to shake a lot more from taking too much damage but refused to give in to the pain. Out of desperation, he then sent a new attack against her. However, Susie got confused quickly. Strangely, she then notices that Lancer's most recent attack had missed with all his spades. Almost as if it was all on purpose. Wait, why aren't you fighting back? She asked the prince as he started to breathe heavily. At the same time, her smile changed into a sad neutral expression. She then shook her head quickly, thinking that her enemy was trying to confuse her or make her feel sad as she continued attacking him right in the belly. Lancer started to shake extremely fast from what can be considered normal. His whole body slowly hurt more and more until he couldn't take it. He began to open his mouth to breathe while taking a knee from the amount of damage he received from Susie. Heh, you think I care? If you just want to lie down and die. You're just making it easier for me. She said, trying to convince herself from fully finishing the job before striking Lancer down once again, only further making the prince have greater difficulty to breathe, much less stand now, for he was at his limit. Lancer weakly and tiredly sent more projectiles at Susie, but this time it was less than it was before, as she can see it clearly. The prince couldn't maintain his attacks as his spade projectiles was poorly and weakly thrown at her, and none of them were anywhere near the soul to take damage from, and even if they were, she could see the spades were avoiding the soul completely before disappearing. Seeing there's no point in dragging this out and Lancer was critically on his last leg, she closed her eyes and sighed. Alright, that's enough. If you want to die so much, then die. The monster screamed and ran to Lancer at full speed with her axe, ready to strike the prince down once and for all with the intent to kill. Lancer closed his eyes, waiting to get killed by his only friend. He knew his action wasn't right and accepted what had to happen, as sad as it was. Sacrificing himself for what he believed was a greater good. Then he opened his eyes. Susie had missed. Susie. Why you missed, he hesitantly spoke. Susie sat down with her face looking straight at the floor. I don't want to kill you, man. Just move. Please, she pleaded, refusing to say further words to the prince. She didn't want to hurt him in the end in spite of her anger. A small part of her really wanted to give Lancer the benefit of the doubt for the sake of their friendship. But Susie, if I let you guys go then you and my dad will fight, and, the prince tried to speak but just couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence yet forced himself to, you'll kill each other, he said with tears on his face. At least if you stay here neither of you will get hurt. Then, Susie started and walked over to Lancer, feeling ashamed of the wounds which she herself had inflicted on him. I won't kill him. Promise. Me and him, we'll just, talk it out. Peaceful style. You know, Susie suggested, smiling for real. She was still mad but tried to hide it. At least Lancer had a reason after all for imprisoning them. He didn't want either to get hurt or worse die. I don't think my dad would like that. Hey, Lancer. Come on. We're a team, right? Nothing can stop us. Fighting or not. Alright? Susie cheered Lancer. Lancer didn't say anything for a while. He then looked at Susie and a smile finally formed on his face. Yeah, you're right. We might as well try. I can help, too. I'll go talk to my dad. Ripen him up. Hey, now we're getting somewhere. I'll head over right now. Lancer said and started to get out of the room. He then stopped for a moment and turned back to Susie. Susie? Yeah. Are we still friends? Huh? Of course. I mean, if you still wanna be. Lancer had never felt so relieved. Phew. See you. Then he happily ran off, though he'll need to get patched up first. Susie saw him leaving and waited till he was gone. Her smile faded and she began to realize the situation. How am I gonna get past his dad like that? See, come on, I'll figure something out. She said, trying to be positive. Susie was about to leave herself so she could get both Naruto and Ralsei out of their cell as she took a few steps until she heard a familiar voice right around the corner in front of her. Wow, I gotta say, I genuinely wasn't expecting you to let Lancer live after he betrayed us. Guess you aren't truly heartless if you still care for him to be friends. Hearing this caught her immediate attention as she looked at the corner to locate the source of that familiar voice, which was none other than Naruto alongside Ralsei standing next to him as the two revealed themselves and came over to Susie. And Naruto. And Ralsei. You both are out of your cell. She said, surprised to see them out who she was just about to retrieve them out herself. Yup. We sure did, Ralsei happily replied as she can see Susie is genuinely surprised at hearing this news. Wow, color me impressed you dweebs managed to get yourselves out. Guess there's no need to break you two out myself, Susie complimented them for this. But how the hell did you two escape your own cell when I was just about to get you two out myself? In response to her question, Naruto's scarf moved on its own and showed Susie a cell key it had in its possession as it dangled it at her face before handing it to Naruto. My scarf managed to swipe a key from the guard that brought me and Ralsei to our cell while we were unconscious. This happened before I helped you solve a puzzle after you broke out of your cell. Turns out my scarf is more than just cloth, as we learned it's sentient, which is the reason we bust out of our cell without your help, he explained while leaving out the how since it involves his Magatama and he doesn't trust Susie to know anything about it. Susie was in disbelief and surprised to hear and see that Naruto's scarf is actually sentient and it's the reason he has the key which allowed them to get out of their cell. She didn't ask or care about him having a scarf because she didn't care about it at the time. Now learning that it's alive is actually pretty cool, like in those cartoons. Gotta say, that's pretty awesome. Having a sentient scarf like that sounds pretty useful. More useful than Ralsei's scarf, she smirks, taking jabs at the princess. Hey! My scarf is useful too. It may not be sentient like Naruto's scarf, but it's just as capable as I want it to be. I just prefer not to get involved in fights that require me to use it, Ralsei defended her scarf with her cute angry face as she adjusts her pink scarf in defense. PSSSH, yeah, sure it is. I'll believe it when I see it, that is if I'll ever see it. Suzy grinned at how Rousey took offense to this and quickly defended her scarf. She then refocused on Naruto's scarf and attempted to touch it, however, it rudely slapped Suzy's hand away from it, which surprisingly hurt for her as she wasn't expected to get slapped, much less feel pain from a piece of cloth. Ow! What the heck? Suzy nurses her hand from the pain while glaring at the scarf. The scarf in question coiled back to Naruto comfortably around his neck in a protective manner, which made him already suspect why his scarf reacted in that way. Huh, guess my scarf doesn't like you very much. I suppose it would have something to do with what happened back at the forest when you started picking a fight with us, then you hurt Rousey and thrashing me away without restraint until I finally lost it, he deduced, while forced to negatively remember what went down at the forest. Suzy felt nervous at the reminder and tried not to show it, but failed, for she knows better now that if Naruto gets upset, annoyed, or God forbid pissed off, and it's either her being responsible for whatever reason or directed at her knowingly, it's better for her to not make things worse, since she ultimately paid for the consequences of her actions by Naruto and doesn't want to have another reminder or experience of what it's like to get beaten up almost non-stop to the point she almost got crippled after being crushed brutally. Rousey became worried at hearing this reminder as she immediately came to Naruto's side and placed her hand on his shoulder to comfort him, which seems to do the trick as he somewhat calmed down, but still not letting that memory go. Naruto was calm now thanks to Rousey, which he smiled at her for trying to comfort him, and the princess just smiled back at him while spotting a blush at his calm yet charming smile. Once he got his act together and pushed down that negative memory, he spoke. Anyway, sorry for how my scarf reacted, but it's better if you don't get too close to it or me personally unless you want to get slapped by it. It's clear it doesn't trust you as it sees you as a liability and a hostile threat to me until proven otherwise. Hope you understand. Suzy didn't say anything to this, looking at the scarf before turning away and speaking awkwardly. Yeah man, I get it, I understand. Also it's fine dude, I suppose I deserve that for how I acted and treated you throughout this whole ordeal. I got the picture. Things just got awkward from the silence now, for nobody spoke until Rousey was the one to break the ice. Well, I'm glad that we're back together again. And I'm proud of you for choosing to spare Lancer. I always knew you were capable of doing the right thing. Yeah, no need to rub it in. I just couldn't bring myself to kill him after he betrayed us. He's my friend. After all, he was the only one who actually wanted to be my friend and thinks I'm cool. That's why I purposely missed my chance at striking him down, Suzy explained herself to them. Which is why I'm very proud of you for making the right decision. Ugh, I get it. Knock it off already. Although I'm still mad he betrayed us, but I guess he did it just to keep us away from his father, knowing we'll be facing him soon, she said while in deep thought. I see, well Lancer did have his reasons for pulling this stunt. I mean, we are going after the king himself and he's Lancer's father. So it actually makes sense he would be worried about us facing his father. But unfortunately our confrontation with the king is inevitable and unavoidable. We have to confront him if we want to seal the dark fountain and get both me and Suzy back home to the light world, Naruto said, now knowing why Lancer would imprison them. Yes, I agree. We must complete our mission in sealing the dark fountain for good in order to get you both back home. It's imperative that we have to face the king if we want to succeed. Rousey added her 2 cents in as she wholeheartedly agrees with Naruto's statement that they need to defeat the king in order to gain passage into sealing the dark fountain. Yeah, I know, Suzy said, contemplating her thoughts, but she didn't let that bother her for now. By the way Naruto, why did your soul appear during my fight with Lancer? You were still locked up with Rousey, so how the hell did your soul appear before me when you weren't around? Well, let's just say I've learned something new that involves my soul and leave it at that, he answered vaguely, not wanting to tell her the reason behind the how. Suzy raised an eyebrow at this, wondering why he gave out a vague response as Naruto thought back before he and Rousey broke out of their cell. Flashback start. A couple of minutes after helping Suzy solve a puzzle and learning that Naruto's scarf is sentient while at the same time, learned it had a cell key which it sneakily took from a guard, Naruto used his scarf to try to unlock their cell with the key as he and Rousey waited. Naruto, I know you already told me you aren't worried about Suzy, but aren't you at least a bit concerned for her safety? She asked him while they patiently waited for Naruto's scarf to unlock the lock to be free from their cell. Nope, not even a little. Perhaps I was somewhat worried for her, but all that dashed away the moment she decided to pick a fight with us back at the forest and went. As far as making you cry and bashing my face in. Besides, she's capable of taking care of herself anyway, that much is very clear. I mean, it's kinda hard to worry about someone who wouldn't hesitate to hurt others just to make them feel pain and misery while thinking they're above consequences. I know it's not something you want to hear from me, but that's just how it is between me and Suzy. He gave her his honest and straight answer since he has zero patience and care towards Suzy. Hearing that pained Ralsei to see that he has zero empathy and confidence towards Suzy, which only made her sad at this. And to make things worse, even She was having second thoughts whether or not Suzy could truly ever be a hero, which only pained her further. Nonetheless, she wouldn't let this get to her, as she wouldn't give up on Suzy, not just yet at least. Well, regardless of how you feel, I don't think it would hurt to at least take a moment while we wait. Close your eyes, and think about what she's doing now, she asked him kindly. Ralsei, I don't want to be rude, but I would rather not think about what she's doing right now. She probably has picked a fight with some guards along the way. I would rather be focused on getting the both of us out of this cell ourselves to regroup with Suzy before she gets herself into all kinds of trouble, Naruto kindly declined to Ralsei. Please. I know you lost all faith towards Suzy, but can you at least do it for me? She insisted in hopes he would listen. He looked at her for a moment, and seeing her sad face seriously pained his soul. The way she's looking at him in a sad manner hurts him. Ultimately, he caved in and said, all right, I'll do it. Please don't give me that sad face. It really pains me to see you like this. That immediately cheered Ralsei up as she smiled thankfully at Naruto for accepting her request. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto just smiled back while mentally sighing at this. The things I do for you, Ralsei, you're too nice for your own good. No doubt in my mind you and Frisk would become best friends if the two of you were to meet due to your pacifism. Anyway, Naruto did as Ralsei asked of him. He closed his eyes and sat on the hard floor while having his scarf still focused on getting their cell unlocked. He could feel his soul beating. Although oddly enough, when he focused more on the fluffy princess, he couldn't feel Ralsei's soul, as if she doesn't have one, which is strange to him, but kept this to himself for now. This made him feel weird but intrigued in a way, as he never did this before. Sure, he can sense individuals, but nothing like this. Guess you learned something new about your soul in different ways. Anyway, Naruto focused a bit further as he remembered that their connection was stronger than he first thought. He concentrated even more and felt another soul, Suzy's soul. He started to concentrate on that energy to see how she was. He managed to get a lock-in on Suzy while seeing what she's doing. Naruto can hear her talk as well as her hearing Lancer, which eventually led to Suzy confronting the prince. However, she and by extension Naruto had learnt that Lancer betrayed them, but mostly Suzy, by getting them all imprisoned. This led to Suzy feeling betrayed and felt angry at the boy turning traitor on her and basically threatened Lancer to step aside, which he refused, which then ultimately turned into a fight. He didn't approve of Lancer backstabbing them, but something tells him that the Spade Prince must have had a reason behind this. But that's not what concerns him. What concerns him is that Suzy intends to kill Lancer because he betrayed her, which made her very angry, and he can already tell Lancer doesn't want to fight her, but he also can't let her pass, so he was forced into battling her. Naruto absolutely refused in letting Suzy murder Lancer, despite the prince did get them thrown in jail. But regardless, he's not gonna let Suzy kill the Spade Prince. Throughout the fight between Suzy and Lancer, he concentrated his soul to appear outside of his body, which he successfully did, much to Ralsei's amazement as she watched it happen. He sent his soul to its destination to stop Suzy from killing Lancer by preventing her from protecting herself and making her take damage to weaken her. Of course he wouldn't get her killed, but he wouldn't worry as the prince wasn't aiming to kill her, unlike Suzy who is trying to kill him. Now, truth be told, he wasn't sure why or how he wasn't taking damage, but rather Suzy was, since it's transferring the pain into her as if her monster soul was taking hits, but not really. Whatever the case may be, this worked into Naruto's favor nonetheless. Although he'd failed to get her to stop despite taking a lot of damage, she kept going and grabbed his soul to stop its interference in continuing in attacking Lancer. At first, things wasn't looking so good as Naruto's soul couldn't stop Suzy from hurting the Spade Prince, and it certainly didn't help. Lancer's attacks was getting weakened and was avoiding hitting his soul to get Suzy to stop. She had the perfect opportunity to finish Lancer off, much to Naruto's growing anger. However, he was surprised to see Suzy purposefully missed her strike, and then both she and Lancer had a touching moment in their own way. He learned that Lancer imprisoned them just to keep them from confronting his father, as he's afraid of they fighting his dad, and thought that if they stayed imprisoned, there will be no fighting and nobody gets hurt. Naruto can understand why he thinks that, but unfortunately it won't work because he and Suzy need to return back to the light world and seal the dark fountain. If they can't, they'll be trapped in the dark world with no way out. After learning the truth behind Lancer's actions and seeing everything as worked out in the end, he let them have their moment as he was brought back to reality. "Welp, looks like I learned why we were imprisoned." "You do?" Ralsei asked in confusion but filled with curiosity. "Yup. Turns out Lancer thought it would be a good idea to have us imprisoned here to prevent us from fighting his dad so that nobody gets hurt from either us or his father," Naruto explained to the fluffy princess. "I see. I'm afraid that's not going to help our situation if we remain imprisoned. The king wouldn't allow us to live if we stayed here, since we plan to seal the dark fountain. It also doesn't help that both you and Suzy are lighteners, which only further fuels his longing to get rid of both of you." Ralsei frowned, giving her opinion after hearing Naruto revealing the truth behind Lancer's actions that got us imprisoned. "Exactly. Which is why we have no reason to stay locked up. We're getting out of here and completing our mission one way or another." He agrees with Ralsei's opinion, determined to get out of their cell and complete the mission. "Yeah." She cheered happily as she wholeheartedly agreed with him. Click. Suddenly, both Naruto and Ralsei heard a click sound which signified that his scarf managed to unlock the cell lock through the key. "All right. We're out." Naruto grinned as they're no longer imprisoned anymore. "Finally. Yay. This is great. Now we can reunite with Suzy." Ralsei happily smiled at hearing this news. "Yup. Now let's go," he said as his scarf coiled back comfortably around his neck. Once Naruto opened the cell door, the two left their cell as they went to reunite with Suzy after leaving the area. Flashback end. "Yeah, like I said, I've learned something new. With my soul while we're imprisoned. That's all I'm gonna say right now," Naruto repeated himself in not giving out the full detail. Suzy just stared at Naruto in a neutral expression before shrugging her shoulders without a care anyway. "Whatever," said Suzy, not really caring whether or not he would tell her or not. She's not gonna push her luck into making him talk if he refuses to tell her anything. "Well, anyways, I'm happy we're all back together again. Even more so you had the heart of a hero in sparing Lancer, Suzy. That's all that matters." Ralsei praises Suzy one last time on her actions while happily reunited again. "Ugh, stop it. I heard you for the first time, don't push your luck." Suzy joined the party. Now that they're back together again, the trio left the area. As they took the right pathway, which was not even long, they saw an elevator ahead of them. Of course Naruto also sees a save point up ahead as well, which he already went ahead and interacted with to save immediately. After saving his save file, which showed they're currently at the Card Castle prison, Naruto decided to take the other route, which Suzy and Ralsei followed suit. As they went over to the right side of the prison cells to check it out, they discovered a party of imprisoned darkners locked up in several circus cages. "What is this?" Naruto muttered as he looked at the prisoners, slightly concerned at this discovery. Suddenly, he was brought to his attention at the three darkners that was trying to get his attention. "Whoa. Oh, whoa. Are you the lighteners we have been hearing about? We are the three former kings. We beg you, free us. Once, all four of us ruled together, but when the night arrived, everything changed. Oh, my diamonds. My jewels. You must tell me if they're all right. Oh. Wait, they are the former kings that once ruled here together. Well, it seems we discovered where they're locked up. But this night they mentioned. This is the second time I'm hearing about this. Just how much of an impact does this night have here? Naruto thought as he wondered just what kind of influence has this night caused here upon its arrival. Not to worry, your highnesses, we'll set you free once we reach the king. We promise, Ralsei promised them, to which they seemed hopeful about it as they took the fluffy princess's words to heart. Suzy just remained silent and leaned against the wall as she just waited for those two to be done so they could leave. Plain and simple. Naruto walked over to the next circus cage to see an imprisoned blue Jigswary as he asked. So how did you get locked up? I was arrested for making a puzzle without a license. I'll never make another word search. Promise. The puzzle piece told his reasons for getting caged up. Seriously. This king locked him up because he needed a license for making puzzles. That makes no sense and it's stupid. So not only this king is a tyrant but an irrational one at that. Not a good combination here, Naruto thought, thinking more negatively towards the king due to his actions affecting his subjects and even towards his fellow kings themselves. He seriously needs to be kicked off his throne, which he will see to that personally if reasoning with him is thrown off the table, which seems highly likely. Next, he went to the other circus cage where a locked-up Ruden is imprisoned, which Naruto asked, "How did you get imprisoned here?" "Well, since I didn't want to fight you guys, I got locked up. How can I? You guys seem way nicer than the king." The caged-up Ruden explained, which Naruto frowned at hearing this. Guess he was caught as a traitor and got thrown in a cage. I see. Well, not to worry, we'll set you along with the others free once we make our way to the king to confront him. Just wait for us, okay? He assured the Ruden that they'll be back to release them all. Thanks, Leitner. I sure hope you guys can make the king reconsider his decisions, the caged-up Ruden said as he took Naruto's word for it. Ralsei smiled at Naruto at how he's giving the prisoners hope of freedom, which she greatly respects him for. Lastly, Naruto made his way over to the last circus cage where a bunch of animals that can talk said that they used to be alone in cages and now everyone's here. So many new people made them wish they could go back to the good old days when it was just them in these filthy cages. I guess they prefer to be the only ones here. Now with everyone getting thrown in prison here, it's not the same. What a strange thing to want, Naruto thought in slight confusion. He then turned over to a darkner that's laying on the floor across from the circus cages. Happens to be a Starwalker who oddly enough isn't locked up like the rest of them are. Before Naruto could ask, the Starwalker was mauling as it spoke. This jail is pissing me off. I'm the original Starwalker. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this and chose not to ask about it and just leave the darkner alone. Seeing that he finished speaking to the prisoners, he believes it's time to go. You done, Naruto? Ralsei asked. Yeah. We'll need to come back here and release them once we settle with the king himself, Naruto said as he looked at the prisoners. Don't worry, we will save them all. We just need to get through the king and hope he'll listen to us, she said in a hopeful way. Guess we'll see. Hey, are you both done already? If so, then hurry it up, Suzy impatiently said as she doesn't want to remain here anymore. Naruto just stared at her for a moment before sighing. Yeah, we're done, he spoke while refusing to say anything more for obvious reasons. With everything settled and done here, the trio went back and walked over to the elevator and entered the elevator door just to leave the prison. Alright, this lift should take us out of here, Ralsei said as she clicked a button to activate the elevator. Naruto and Suzy entered not long after and waited for it to start working. It made a few sounds of metal hitting one another and then it lifted. Now, it might take a while, so get comfy, everyone, she said as the fluffy princess sat on the floor. Naruto sat on the floor too near her with a calm expression while Suzy leaned on the wall, looking to the floor with a serious stare. She didn't know why, but an awkward silence filled the room. Nobody spoke for what felt like ages. Ralsei looked at Naruto and he was quietly resting but was also in deep thought. That made her wonder what he was thinking, but before she could say anything Suzy talked. Hey. Ralsei. You know Lancer's dad the king? Suzy asked, looking her straight in the eyes. Ralsei looked at her with wonder. Yes. She answered, not realizing exactly why Suzy asked her as if she knew him. Ralsei never really got out of her castle town, but she heard the stories about the King of Spades. A powerful and merciless ruler that feared nothing and no one. Still, what he was doing as a king she doesn't know. When we meet him you think we'll have to hurt him? Suzy asked with a sad tune. Suzy. I mean, I could easily smash him, but, she quickly said. You guys, I know that's not really your thing. You're more about, groveling like total losers, she smiled. And I was thinking maybe I could do that too. She hesitantly said, not very confidently. Suzy. You mean you want to try acting? Ralsei barely spoke of surprise. Finally, Suzy was acting like a true hero. Well. Suzy, we'd be happy if you act with us. She smiled happily. And don't worry, we'll be there to help you. You won't have to figure it out by yourself, she then smiled gently. Ralsei couldn't believe Suzy was finally willing to try acting. It made her really happy that she was sounding like a hero. Even though Ralsei was happy, Suzy seemed to be deeply thinking about something. Her anterior smile was changed for a cold stare at the floor. Sure, all right. Afterward, the silence returned. As Suzy continued to be lost in her mind, Naruto silently listened in, and genuinely he was quite shocked, disbelief and flabbergasted, but didn't show it. Never would have thought he would ever hear Suzy actually want to try acting with them. It was quite a shocker that he honestly refused to believe she was serious for real. It's too good to be true that he wants to believe she's just pulling a cruel prank on Ralsei. Nonetheless, he'll find out for sure if Suzy truly wants to try acting with them. After all, actions speak louder than words. As Naruto kept his thoughts to himself while remaining silent, he was unaware that Ralsei was staring at him silently. When she saw him deep in thought, she was curious as to what he's thinking right now. Ralsei tried not to gaze too much to avoid drawing attention from him. However, she couldn't help but keep staring. She always enjoyed watching how calm and collected he looked, especially getting lost just by looking at his blue eyes. She couldn't help but notice how pretty they were. It's like staring at an ocean to her, they resemble blue diamonds. As Ralsei stared at Naruto, she felt her cheeks heating up. Hey, Ralsei, Suzy called her. Ralsei widened when she did, and she noticed it because the fluffy princess had a guilty smile and was blushing slightly. Suzy. Ralsei responded, trying to seem as normal as possible. Although her voice showed she got caught on surprise by Suzy. She looked at her with semi-closed eyes, but not long after stopped doing so. Are you still gonna make those, cakes? Suzy asked, a little confused. Well, will you stop making fun of me? Ralsei questioned her, hoping that this time she would stop. Well, if I have to, I guess, she smiled. Then I'll bake you as many as you like, alright? The fluffy princess smiled while saying it while her blush vanished. Yeah, like you can make that many, dude, Suzy laughed. Not long after she agreed with her terms, the elevator stopped. Well, this is our stop. Ralsei said and went ahead to the now open door. As she left the elevator, Naruto got up and was about to leave too. However, before he exited the elevator door, Suzy called him. Hey, Naruto. Wait a sec. He mentally sighed as he truly doesn't want to converse with Suzy, but he might as well just get this over with so they don't waste any more unnecessary time. Naruto turned to her and she did the same. What is it? He answered, neutrally with an unreadable expression. It kinda unnerved her the way he responded, but didn't question it. Look, I know you don't see me as trustworthy at all and probably see me as nothing but a bully and a liability due to my actions at school and to this world. But, I want to make things right between us. I know my words mean little to you after everything that's happened between the two of us, especially our fight back at that forest maze. But I've been, reflecting my actions and realized what it was like to be the victim after you brutally beat me to nearly crippling me. I want to try to stop acting like a JRK and start acting like the hero you nerds want me to be. If you're willing to give me another chance to redeem myself, Suzy apologized, hoping he would give her a chance. Naruto listened to her apology and without showing he was quite surprised at what he heard. Is Suzy actually apologizing to Naruto? Like for real? Anyway, he continued listening to her as she continued. And you know, not only that, I'm also starting to realize. It'll be easier for us to get out of here if we all, get along a little more. So, next time we fight an enemy, she stopped for a second and turned to Naruto but didn't look him directly in the eyes. If you tell me what to do, I'll listen to you. Naruto was silent for a moment as he was digesting what he just heard from Suzy. He didn't see any lies and deceit from her words, which means she actually and genuinely meant every word she said. Naruto just slowly nodded in agreement, unsure what to think of this sudden predicament. Suzy looked him in the eyes and smiled. But, you know, don't tell me anything stupid, or I'll go back to smashing heads, alright? She said, trying to make him afraid, but it didn't work at all. He just stared at her with an unamused expression, as he should have expected she wouldn't change completely just by that last response and her attempt to scare him, which had zero effect whatsoever. Nonetheless, Naruto finally spoke after hearing her out. Alright, I'll give you another shot in redeeming yourself. But this is your one and only chance in earning my trust if you truly mean it. So don't screw your only opportunity in making things right. I'm done giving you chances to change my mind. I'll be watching you closely to make sure you don't go back on your words. So starting now, prove to me you want to try taking things seriously and earning my trust if you're honestly and truly serious about this. Okay? Yeah, I get ya. I understand. I'll try to be better. Promise. She understood his words, knowing she at least was given her last chance to redeem herself. She'll do what she can to earn his trust so they can go home. But regardless, she was at least happy Naruto listened to what she wanted to say. Suzy walked to the exit and stopped on the edge. Naruto, I'm counting on you, okay? She told him and left the room. Naruto was left alone for a bit after everything he heard from Suzy. He still couldn't believe what he was told, and to be completely honest, it actually made him smile at this. Suzy is finally gonna take this seriously and actually gonna listen to him. She's finally putting her trust into him. Seeing that perhaps things might go our way this time, he promised himself he wasn't gonna fail her. He wouldn't fail. Hopefully he doesn't regret giving Suzy that last chance, but knowing she's finally gonna listen and follow his lead fills him with determination. Suzy joined the party for VERYYYY. With his mind fully set, he exited out of the elevator to catch up with the two. The moment Naruto got out of the elevator, he saw Ralsei and Suzy hiding. He looked at them in confusion. Only then he noticed one enemy patrolling the first room of the castle. It was walking in the opposite direction, but he didn't move in shock as he remained calm. It looked like the typical Ruden he encountered previously throughout different locations, but this time, instead of green, this one was red, and it was using armor, and its sword was much bigger and sharper than the previous green ones he'd faced before. Naruto! Come here, Suzy whispered, instructing him to come to where they were. Naruto quickly and quietly came over to rejoin them. The enemy turned to its back to continue its patrol without seeing him, which meant he didn't get spotted, thankfully. What do we do? There's a guard over there, how are we supposed to avoid it? Suzy asked, seeing there's no way to get around the guard without getting spotted. There's also a path leading downwards which leads to what he assumes it's the front exit to the card castle, but that's not his main focus at the moment. I don't see any way around it. We're gonna have to fight the guard in order to proceed forward, Naruto stated. I guess there's no alternate way to avoid it, Ralsei said, seeing there's no way around and proceeding forward without the guard spotting them. Heh, that's fine by me. Let's get this guy, Suzy smirked, not bothered in confronting the guard, all things considered. Naruto nodded to them as he along with Suzy and Rousei revealed themselves as the guard took notice of them as it spotted them in surprise. It's the Lightners. You three are supposed to be imprisoned. Stop and stay where you are. The guard exclaimed while sweating at their reveal. It called in another guard that was patrolling the other corridor. They ran towards the trio with their spades swords up and ready to aim at the Lightners as the trio prepared themselves for battle as they entered a battle sequence. Ruden Rangers came sparkling into view. Seeing the name doesn't surprise him much. The fact that these two enemies are both red Ruden variants but as Rangers and it looks like they mean business than their green counterparts is a dead giveaway. Considering he only saw these guys outside the card castle before he and his team got knocked out by them, he would need to be vigilant against them. Regardless, he knows how to deal with Rudens. So seeing as he and his team are facing two Ruden Rangers who showed no fear of approaching them, this should be easy to get through without issue if they're anything like their green counterparts. With that mindset in motion, Naruto went over to select ACT and was about to do his usual of convince one of the two but then remembered what Suzy told him minutes ago back at the elevator and decided to give it a try to see for himself if what she told him was the truth. He told Suzy to compliment one of the enemies while having Rousei defend herself as a precaution in case things go south. Are you serious? Suzy asked him with an "I knew it" face. What good can I say about someone trying to kill us? Suzy, if you're stuck, why not try saying something you wish someone would say to you? Rousei suggested. Suzy thought about it for a couple of seconds. You are unbanned from Free Ham Sandwich Day, she said, pointing to one of the Ruden Rangers. It widened in shock and somehow felt flattered. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Suzy's response of a compliment as he wasn't sure what to make of that but somehow the Ruden Ranger felt flattered which meant it worked so he'll take it as a good sign that nothing backfired yet. The king never said that to me before. I'm the diamond, here's the rough. The two Ruden Rangers begin to target both Naruto and Suzy as they launch pinkish-colored knife-shaped laser projectiles at them as they move up and down during the attack just to change directions of where their projectiles are coming from. Naruto evaded the projectiles while using his Sakamoto to block and deflect the incoming attacks away from him with precision and skill while Suzy just dodged them without error as the Ruden Rangers ended their turn. Ruden Ranger fantasizes about divine gems. Since one of the Ruden Rangers was befriended by Suzy, Naruto instructed her to compliment the other Ruden Ranger again while having Rousei spare the first Ruden Ranger to get this fight done as quickly as possible. Please keep body tackling the soda machine, she told it, and like the first one, it also felt flattered. Its rage was changed by a smile of innocence. Once the second Ruden Ranger was befriended, Rousei immediately spared the first one away with ease which left the last one left to spare. Like previously, it targeted Naruto again and him alone as the Ruden Ranger launched more projectiles at him which like before, he used his sword to protect himself by blocking and deflecting them away which ended the attack quickly without fail. Once it was all said and done, Naruto went over to the spare button for himself to spare the last Ruden Ranger which was quickly spared it away as the battle was quickly ended without issue. You won. Got 0 EXP and $140. I guess Suzy is actually serious about what she told me. I suppose she told the truth. However, her compliments need a bit more work though, Naruto thought, after seeing the results personally. He was remotely pleased that Suzy actually listened to him for once and didn't outright attack the enemy. It's a start at least for now. Although he'll wonder how long that'll last as he's still not convinced yet. Anyway, now that the issue was out of the way, the trio proceeded onward to where the Ruden Ranger was patrolling as there's two different paths where the left leads to a room that's shaped like a diamond while the upper front probably leads to the next area where they need to go. Naruto decided to take the lower left path to see where the diamond-shaped room leads to. Before that though, he saw a sign on the wall next to it and went to see what it said. Ruden's room. Yes, that's a door. After reading this, Naruto was slightly curious about it but not fully as he and his team don't want to get jumped the moment they enter the room. Still though, he'll remain cautious and prepared to take the risk as he decides to enter the room with Suzy and Rousei following after him. Upon entering the room, the trio sees two regular Rudens there with a pile of what Naruto can assume are shiny treasure-looking objects on the floor in the middle of the room, and lastly a lone picture hanging on the wall. One of the Rudens notices one of them entering their room and looks surprised upon recognizing him. "Hey, it's you. You're that peaceful Lightner. Whoa, you even tamed the beast that tormented us." Suzy raised an eyebrow at this through her hair when hearing this. "Beast? What beast? Oh. You even taught the beast to talk. Here, have a Choco Diamond." Thanks." Naruto just thanked him unsurely whether or not he should laugh because Suzy just got insulted without knowing, or just accepting its gift due to having Suzy with them who's behaving at the moment. Nonetheless, he accepted the Choco Diamond given from the Ruden as he put it with his items for later use. "So, I just gotta ask, is this really your guys' room? Looks pretty empty for the most part." Naruto asked, wondering if this is all they were given to live here or it's something else entirely. "We sold all of our beds to replace them with treasure. My back hurts, but life has never been better." The second Ruden answered for him, explaining to him the lack of beds they once had after selling them for piles of treasure. Naruto wasn't sure what to think of this after hearing the Ruden's reasoning behind that. "Okay, well, hope selling your beds for treasure was all worth it without something to rest on." "It's fine, Lightner. We'll manage, and thanks for your concern." After chatting with the two Ruden, Naruto looked at the piles of treasure that appears to be normal everyday riches, acquired from a legitimate source, at least from what he got from a text the moment he glanced at it. Then lastly he glanced at the picture, which looked like a family photograph which he thought nothing much of. After overstaying their welcome, Naruto bid the two Rudens farewell for now as the trio left their room and refocused on where they needed to go as they went to the other path as it led to a stairway leading towards the second floor, which the trio proceeded onward through the stairway. "Hey, Naruto," Suzy spoke, gaining his attention. "What?" he responded, still proceeding forward onto the stairs while listening without facing her. "What the Ruden said, back in their room, who was the beast they were talking about?" she asked, making Naruto look back at her in a disbelief expression. "Are you serious? Are you honestly asking me?" he asked, wanting to be sure she was for real asking that question or just pulling his leg. "Yeah." Naruto couldn't believe that she didn't pick up that they were referring to her as the beast. And the fact one of them gave him a Choco Diamond as a thank you for taming the beast, and taught her to talk, that's just plain wild and rather hilarious. Too bad he didn't laugh back there, because it's just not the time. Don't worry about it. They were talking about something else. Probably some random enemy me and Ralsei might have encountered and befriended along the way kinda. So don't think too much about it, nothing important," he lied to her, while telling the truth. Naruto only lied because he doesn't want to tell her that the Ruden were referring to her as the beast and risk Suzy going after them with the intent to cause harm. Best to avoid that issue entirely without getting a headache in the process. Suzy just stared at Naruto for a moment before shrugging her shoulders, already not caring anyway for what those losers were talking about. Probably not worth her time to know if he and Ralsei already dealt with whatever beast it was. "Whatever," she said, dropping the subject as she already lost interest in the matter. Anyway, as the trio reached the second floor, Naruto immediately notices their 4 WHP pawnmen with their diamond chains rotating around, which tells him they need to wait a bit their time for the right moment to cross like he has before. Naruto and Ralsei waited to see the pattern before daring to move, while Suzy decided to run ahead immediately, much to Naruto's annoyance at her recklessness, and escaped without a single scratch. After that risky move, Naruto and Ralsei went inside the trap and walked at the rhythm of the moving spikes. They managed to get to the other side without damage as well. Once the three made it through unscathed, on the right side of the room, there was a darker corner with a little shiny light that stood out that caught Naruto's attention and decided to inspect it with Suzy and Ralsei following after him. However, when he walked inside, followed by Suzy and Ralsei being the last one entering, the corridor from the room became blocked by a fence of spikes. Then an unfamiliar voice spoke. "So the worms have decided to crawl out and play," the unknown person said slowly. "Who's there?" Ralsei widened as Naruto was cautiously on the lookout around their surroundings while Suzy took her axe out to prepare just in case it was an enemy. Gay ha 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 ha. Thou'st fools. An intense light covered the room and from it appeared an adult-sized humanoid man. His head is diamond-shaped, with long white hair parted to his left, and a face with a slightly melted appearance composed of two diamond-shaped eyes and a large mouth, which appears to be overlapped by a vertical strp of blue skin while he's dressed in a royal blue suit with epaulets. I am Ruzel's card, VOICEOVER greatest adversary. Thou may have clodst past all thou use otherest conundrums but thous were created by utter weaklings. The introduced stranger spoke without even looking at them. Now, prepare thyself for the strongest puzzle of thou'st life. The room was filled once again with light for a fraction of a second. On the pink carpet that was on the floor before, a shape-like box was now above it. The box was similar to a puzzle in the middle of the field of hopes and dreams. Toil, worms. Suzy looked at Ralsei with the face, is this guy being serious? Naruto was just staring at the box in a neutral yet disbelieving expression. This guy cannot be serious about calling this a puzzle, right? He thought, thinking this is a joke of some kind. Lost? Frightened? Confused? Ruzzles asked when he saw his expression. Good. Ha ha ha. Toiled in despair at the world's strongest puzzle. Oh my Kami, he's actually serious. Naruto couldn't believe this guy actually would call this a puzzle if he can remotely call it that. You handle this one, freak, Suzy told him, leaning against the wall. He rolled his eyes at her for calling him a freak still. Seems like after making Suzy rethink her life choices, there's a bit of a JRK left in her still. Either that or it was just a force of habit. Whatever, it ain't like that bothers him at the moment as long she doesn't overstep her boundaries and wasting her only chance of redeeming herself, then he doesn't care what she calls him. Anyway, Naruto focused back on this puzzle, if he can even call it that, to solve as it wasn't that difficult to understand how it works. He stared at it for a few seconds before immediately kicking the box to the left, hitting a SWCH on the ground and the fence of spikes disappeared, signifying he solved the puzzle quite easily. God. DMNIT, the man in blue said and flew out of the room, frustrated. So that guy was the Ruzzles card I've been hearing about who's been called the Lord of the Puzzles. Kinda lackluster given the puzzle he gave me wasn't at all challenging. Perhaps he did it to lower our guard down. I'm assuming that's the case, Naruto thought with sincere hope. He didn't want to assume anything negative about it since there were some that were at least decent, like the gate puzzle in the fields of hopes and dreams. Hopefully the guy takes it seriously this time than that poor excuse of a puzzle he already solved previously since the very start of this adventure. Heh, nice job, Suzy chuckled. Let's move. When they left the room, the spikes outside that prevented us from going to the next floor were gone. As a result, they continued to advance. However, before they could go any further, Naruto wondered what that other bottom path leads to, so he backtracked and went to the opposite direction with his companions following after him while avoiding getting hit by the WHP Ponman's diamond chains. As they approached the end of the corridor, they saw an elevator behind them, but what caught their attention was a treasure chest. Well, lucky us, we found a treasure chest. Can't believe we almost missed that before proceeding, Naruto said as he went ahead and opened the chest, which contained a club sandwich. Nice, any healing item would benefit us greatly. I agree. We're having such good luck with these items we're finding lately. Ralsei nodded with him as Naruto stored the club sandwich away in his inventory with the others. Yay us, I guess, Suzy said with indifference as she's not much thrilled than these two nerds are. Naruto didn't bother to say anything from her poor response and just left it at that as the trio made their way back around while once again avoiding the WHP Ponman's rotating diamond chains in the process. It didn't take long for them to outmaneuver the WHP Ponman's diamond chains as they reached the stairway and proceeded onward. However, not long after arriving at the third floor, 3 enemies immediately blocked our path as they took notice of them and forced them into battle. Head Hathi blocked the way quietly. Okay, so aside from getting caught off guard almost immediately, it seems like we got another enemy Hathi variant and these ones are called head Hathi. Like with the Ruden Rangers, this'll be simple, Naruto deduced, already knowing the strategy of how to handle them like their normal counterparts. He quickly went over to ACT and planned to have Ralsei do X-Flatter on them, however there were no X-Flatter nor Flatter options but instead, they were replaced with Flirt or X-Flirt which involves Suzy, much to his initial surprise. Now he doesn't know how it'll play out because he knows he's not much of a flirt and he's definitely certain Suzy isn't gonna comply with X-Flirt if he ordered her to do it. However, his curiosity and his inner prankster started kicking in as he kinda wanna see how Suzy would react the moment he tells her to go flirt with one of the head Hathi. Just thinking about it already makes him form a mischievous smile at the thought screw it, he's so gonna do it. It's too good to pass up this golden opportunity to see how she reacts to such an order. With his mind fully set and his jokester side showing a bit now, Naruto went over to select X-Flirt and ordered Suzy to go flirt with the enemy while having Ralsei defend herself as a safety precaution. She stared at Naruto when he told her to flirt with the enemies. And hell no. Come on, you have to. I'm sure you can do it, he said with a straight face but trying not to sport a SHT-eating grin on his face. Not a freaking chance. Ah, Suzy, it's okay if you don't know how. Ralsei tried to console her although it didn't work. What? Shut up, that's not the problem. She said loudly, looking embarrassed. Sure feels like it though, Naruto spoke in a high voice while couldn't hide his grin. It's not. Are you sure? Ralsei questioned, not very convinced. Alright, look, wise girl. I'll show you. I'll show the both of you. Watch this. Ahem. So, come here often. Suzy tried to start a conversation but head Hathi felt awkward and left. Hey, get back here and let me flirt with you. She screamed while Hathi was leaving with a very uncomfortable look. Naruto couldn't take it anymore as he immediately doubled over laughing hard at what he just witnessed before him, much to Suzy's growing embarrassment and frustration. He knew Suzy's flirting skills were probably not around her forte but he didn't expect it this bad. He could have sworn that even the scarf was vibrating as if laughing. Nonetheless, it was hilarious all the same and it was so DMN well worth it. Heck, even Ralsei held in a chuckle or two from admittedly Suzy's poor attempt to flirt as she tried not to giggle at this but couldn't suppress it no matter how hard she tried. Nonetheless, she smiled at her for trying at least. Suzy didn't flirt well but it was very comical. Naruto smiled too after catching his breath and calling down as he at least got a good laugh at this as he's not gonna forget this anytime soon. He and Ralsei looked at each other and the two seemed to have thought the same. Anyway, after Suzy's poor yet hilarious attempt to flirt have failed which made one of the head Hathi leave awkwardly, only two left remaining as the two target both Suzy and Ralsei as they blew broken heart shapes at them as their way of saying they'll break their soul as the two head Hathi summoned a large ring of hearts around them that rapidly gets smaller. They avoided getting hit as the hearts boxed them in but eventually managed to not receive any damage once the enemy's turn had ended. Head Hathi's mind is an enigma. When it was our turn again, Naruto immediately told Suzy to go flirt again just for the lols again while having Ralsei to once again defend herself like previously. Of course as expected, Suzy widened in disbelief at first upon being told to go flirt again but immediately answered. Hell nah. Let's see Ralsei do it, she smirked. I suppose if it can't be helped. Ralsei tried to seem optimistic but didn't want to fail. She sighed and tried to remember a love poem from one of the books at the castle's library. Hathi, your beauty is just transcendent. Your hair is like a waterfall of wait, do you have hair, or, she said clumsily and confused as the other head Hathi felt awkward and left too. Oh dear. Wait. Not so easy, huh? Suzy laughed at her embarrassment. Naruto internally cringed at how Ralsei failed at flirting too and most definitely felt embarrassed by it, not that he blames her for it. Seeing that not one but two head halfies left the fight due to both Suzy and now Rousey failed in flirting, making them awkward enough to leave, only one remained as the head halfie blew a broken heart shapes at Suzy as it's targeting her again as it spawned a large heart around her that started spinning and stopped. Then the heart rapidly moves forward as the tip of the heart is pointing upwards, which forces Suzy to quickly move along with it, almost taking damage at how fast the attack was before the enemy's turn has ended. Smells like a lonely kiss. As it's their turn again, Naruto was debating on how he can get through this since Suzy and Rousey couldn't flirt. At first he did it just for laughs and kinda hoped Suzy somehow managed to flirt with the enemy, but now she couldn't, which makes the situation somewhat difficult. He didn't want to force Suzy to flirt again since she sucks at it, but seeing there's no other option, he may have to. Plus, he refuses to do it himself because he's not much of a flirt either, so he would rather avoid that option if possible. With his decision made up, he unfortunately had no choice but to once again make a third attempt by going over to act, then select X flirt for Suzy on the last head halfie and ordered her to flirt yet again, much to Suzy and Rousey's surprise. Oh my god, Naruto. I can't. Do it yourself. The music stopped momentarily as he's now been put on the spot, as he now has to make the attempt which he'd hoped wouldn't happen, but unfortunately it did. Welp, guess there's no turning back now. Sigh, guess I have no other choice. Ugh, this sucks. I hope watching numerous genres of anime would help me in this situation. Naruto mentally prayed his flirting would get them out of this situation while keeping his embarrassment in check without being seen. He took a deep breath, then walked to the last head halfie slowly. Then he attempted to flirt in a sweet line as he spoke. My lady, I'm sure that you will be even more appealing tomorrow than you are today. The head halfie started to feel flustered as his words managed to make the enemy blush as if it were deeply enamored, as well as the music resumed. The enemy wasn't the only one, as even Rousey blushed a little at Naruto's words, but she tried to hide it without anyone noticing. How is he so good at it? She thought, trying to keep her blush in check as she felt flustered despite it not being directed at her, but his sweet line made her face turn red, and just thinking about it only made it worse as her blush increased. Regardless, she forced herself to get a grip of herself and focused on the fight as she managed to finally hide her blush after calming down. Suzy wasn't affected by this, but she was kinda impressed Naruto actually pulled off that flirt without fail. Although she had hoped he would botch it up too so that she could laugh at him back, since she and Rousey couldn't do it. Too bad that wasn't the case, much to her disappointment. Whatever. Anyway, once he managed to successfully flirt with the head halfie, thankfully for his part secretly, Naruto had Rousey spare the last enemy before it took its turn to attack, which thankfully, she managed to spare the last enemy, thus ending the battle. You won. Got 0 EXP and $53. Thank Kami, that's over. I'm honestly glad my attempt worked. Seems like all the times of me watching anime for this sort of thing has really paid off. Hope I'll never do that again though. It was embarrassing as it is. Thank goodness I kept my embarrassment in check as I did the attempt, Naruto thought, sighing in relief. That was quite amazing back there, Naruto. I didn't know you were good at flirting, Rousey praised him, much to his embarrassment, but didn't show it, thankfully once again. Thanks Rousey. Much appreciated as usual, he thanked her, accepting her praise. It was alright I guess. Although I wish you didn't keep telling me to flirt so much since I'm not that good at it, Suzy shrugged her shoulders while folding her arms. Yeah, sorry about that. I kinda just did it for laughs at first, but then it sort of kinda backfired on me, but not really, as I was forced to make the flirt attempt myself since neither you two could do it, no offense. Thankfully I pulled it off without issue, so overall, everything worked out in the end, he explained. She just rolled her eyes at his words, clearly didn't like how Naruto made her try flirting for not once but twice, and would have been a third weren't not for her to tell him off to do it himself. Even then she was looking forward to seeing him fumble the attempt himself, but unfortunately he managed to not screw it up, which again, very unfortunate for her. Not like it matters now anyway. So Naruto, I was wondering if you don't mind me asking, how are you good at flirting? If you don't mind answering, Rousey asked, curiously. Even Suzy wanted to know, not that she'll admit it out loud. Naruto was silent for a moment as he was debating if he should tell them. But after some thought, he went ahead and told them. Let's just say I've watched a lot of anime which helped me in that situation. It's thanks to them I was able to pull it off. Before Ralsei could ask him what an anime is, Suzy groans loudly at this. Oh, of freaking course, no wonder you were able to pull off that flirt of yours. You got inspiration from those shows. You're such a weeb, dude. He rolled his eyes at Suzy's obvious response. Oh please, you couldn't flirt at all, not once but twice, until you caved in on the third and I stepped in. You have no room to talk. I can admit flirting isn't my forte as much as yours and most likely gain inspiration from anime, but at least I managed to pull it off successfully and got us the win in that fight, and it still works. That tells us quite a lot. You cannot deny and tell me otherwise. Suzy opened her mouth to refute him, but she remained silent at this. As much she hates to admit this, but he's not wrong, unfortunately. She couldn't flirt and neither could Ralsei, and yet Naruto can, and that's only because he watches enough anime to pull it off. Seeing she couldn't defend herself from his words, she reluctantly chose to accept this fact, much to her disdain. TCH. Whatever. You just got lucky with that, that's all. I bet you wouldn't be this good if it weren't for watching so much anime just to get good, she spoke, feeling a bit salty about it. I'm not even going to dignify that response. Look, the bottom line is, I gain my flirting skills through watching anime for inspiration. That's all I'm gonna say. If it works, it works. End of story. Naruto ended this conversation, wanting to not have this ridiculous debate over this with Suzy because she's just mad because she made herself like a fool while he did it without issue. Suzy just rolled her eyes as she doesn't care anymore and just remained quiet since she doesn't want to continue wasting her energy on arguing with him and just let it go. It was already getting pointless now the more she argues further, so she just dropped it just to save herself the headache. Anyways, now that the battle was done and over with, Naruto was about to proceed onward but noticed there was another path behind him and his companion, so he went the other way as Naruto along with Suzy and Ralsei followed him as it led them to a heart-shaped room which, like the diamond-shaped room, they go in there too. Upon entry, there were two normal hathis on both opposite sides and behind them were 4 beds and a picture of a heart hanging in the middle. Apparently, like with the Rudens room, they too sold all their gems and replaced them with beds but in reverse. They looked extremely well slept from the hathi on the left. On the right, this hathi just looked at Naruto kindly as his sins against hathi were forgotten. Okay. Seeing there's not much to find here, the trio left their room and focused on proceeding onward back to where they were going, but unfortunately they had to battle the head hathis again as they just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Luckily Naruto now knew how to beat them as he just made Suzy flirt with them, much to her growing dismay at constantly being told to flirt with them, but eventually they pulled through as they won 0 EXP and $135. Anyway, the trio continued onward to the next stairway without any enemies stopping them, and soon they arrived on the 4th floor. Along the way, they had to patiently wait for the right moment to move in as this floor is guarded by scissor dancers, so they had to time it the moment to make a move. Eventually, they managed to avoid taking damage from them as they proceeded to continue on. Hey, Naruto. Would you mind if by some chance after this journey is over, teaching me how to flirt properly? You're really good at it. Ralsei asked, smiling. Naruto was unsure about her request as he doesn't know how to teach someone to flirt because he's not one to flirt at all, as he admits this previously. So he doesn't exactly know how he could possibly teach her how to flirt properly as he gets his knowledge from anime. Why do you want to flirt anyway? It's dumb. Fighting is the best option, Suzy said, smiling and swinging her axe in the air, neglecting the power of flirting. It seems something normal, but it can make enemies stop desiring to attack. Because that way, we all can use it to gain advantages. Ralsei said, slightly blushing of the idea it gave me. She looked at Naruto with semi-closed eyes. Nice try, but you ain't fooling me, Captain Toothpaste, Suzy answered. Before she could reply, they heard a big sound. A fence of spikes blocked the room they came earlier. The trio had been walking since the battle and fell on another trap. And immediately after the exit being blocked, a familiar laugh was heard as an intense light covered the room once more, and like previously in the third floor, from it appears the same man who confronted them before. Gay haha, thoust guys really think that was all I hadst? Ruzzles asked, but before someone could talk, he continued. Wrong. It's time for you to feel my real power. Behold. My ultimate puzzle. Have at you. He screamed, and a slightly different puzzle appeared in front of them. The room they got stuck in was an exact copy of the last one. Raux appeared for the first time. The only difference was the carpet that now had a space between the box and the SWCH. Naruto didn't bother to look back nor hesitate and pushed the box to the SWCH. A clicking sound echoed on the room as the spikes were gone once again. Ruzzles became speechless for a moment. Ah ah ha. Ha ha ha. Gullible worms. That wasn't TST really my ultimate puzzle. I have a waste better one right here. Can we see it? Ralsei asked with curiosity yet uncertain about it. No, the man in blue said. And left the room without further speech. The same moment Ruzzles left, Susie walked off the room, and it was possible that she'll be waiting for them to go to the next floor or leave them behind to go on ahead. She looked annoyed. Honestly, I don't blame her for feeling annoyed. I'm honestly genuinely shocked Ruzzles isn't living up to the name of his title of the Duke of Puzzles. To be quite frank, if Papyrus was here and ever were to meet him as well as learn of his title but aren't living up to it, he probably would feel offended by this and show him what real puzzles look like, Naruto thought, while picturing a scenario of how Papyrus would interact with Ruzzles and severely correct his flaws of puzzle making what is up to Papyrus's standards. Well, on to the next floor. We must be very close to the fountain. Ralsei told Naruto, being cheerful as always. Yup, sounds about right. We're nearly there, he agrees with her as they quickly leave to go catch up with Susie. The two took them a bit to reach down the hallway corridor while getting around the scissor dancers as they bided their time to continue on until eventually they were in the clear after reaching at the stairway. Luckily. She was waiting for us near the stairway, leaning against the wall with her arms folded while still looking annoyed. About time. I just about had it with that Ruzzles guy. His puzzles are a complete joke. And this guy calls himself the Duke of Puzzles. What a load of CRP. He clearly isn't good with his job if all he's doing is throwing easy puzzles our way, Susie spoke, dissing Ruzzles at how much of a complete amateur in puzzle making he is. I'm not gonna say anything negative about him, but his puzzles aren't challenging at all. Those ones I recognize were the easiest ones I solved back at the Fields of Hopes and Dreams. I honestly was expecting him to fake out these puzzles just to lower our guard, but he wasn't faking them, he was serious. Really brings down my expectations of this so-called Duke of Puzzles, he or anyone else calls him that, Naruto agrees with her in a less insulting way. Truly disappointed. Well, at least we are able to casually stroll on through without issue. I for one am glad his puzzles aren't much of a problem for us to get hindered. The quicker we beat his challenges, the faster we are from reaching the fountain. Ralsei gave her own opinion as she for one is okay with this. If it meant getting to the fountain quicker than usual, then so be it. Yeah, you definitely gotta pout. Still, despite Ruzzles' puzzles being a complete joke, I doubt he's giving up on stopping us from reaching our destination. Best be prepared for him for whatever he has in store for us to throw our way. We'll be ready. He reminds them to remain cautious and prepare regardless of how easy Ruzzles made his puzzles look. Never let your guard down, not even a second until you are certain you're in the clear and they are not in the clear yet. Ralsei nodded in full agreement while Susie just grunted, which was basically her way of saying, yeah no SHT, Captain Obvious. Nonetheless, they are aware of this fact, which is a given that Susie is finally taking this seriously and listening to him as they make progress throughout the card castle. Anyways, now that they dealt with Ruzzles' second puzzle challenge, which is not at all a challenge, the trio was about to proceed over to the stairway to the next floor, but Naruto stopped as he noticed another room that's shaped like a club. Seeing this made him remind him of that diamond-shaped room where those two Rudens stayed down on the first floor. He wondered what that room was for as his curiosity soon got the better of him. "Hey you two, before we continue on the next floor, let's check out this room over here. You girls are up for it?" He asked if they wanted to check it out or not. "I don't mind Naruto if you want to. I'll go wherever you go," Ralsei smiled as she gave her answer. "I guess if I have to," Suzy gave her answer too, though she doesn't care, all things considered, as per usual with her. Naruto nodded to them after hearing their answers as the trio entered the club-shaped room to see what this room is all about. Upon entering the room, they saw that there's a bed that is shaped like a clover leaf in order to fit her 3 heads, a boombox plays club music, and several small trees and large baseballs have been provided, though a closer look at one of the baseballs is a repainted basketball. They soon saw several familiar faces, with them being a green Ruden, a Hathi, and most of all Clover, who brightened upon seeing the trio. The happy head spoke first. "Hey! Welcome to my birthday. Let me take your coats." The haughty head spoke second, and put them in the toilet, HAH. The timid head mutters meekly, "Which we don't even have, thanks for coming though." Naruto smiles in response, "Thanks and happy birthday to you." Ralsei nods in agreement, "Indeed, we hope you enjoy it with everyone here." PFT, whatever, Suzy looks away, not caring at all. "Thanks, how about you try out the baseballs? Yeah, you get to eat so many that you'll choke on them. Can they even eat sports?" Wanting put the awkward conversation on hold for, Naruto and Ko went on to mingle with the other 2 party guests. They went to speak with the green Ruden, who turned out to be the very one Naruto and Ralsei had met a while ago, that asked for their suggestion about what present he could give to Clover, hence that basketball which was repainted to resemble a baseball. Apparently he's the first to attend the birthday party and in charge of the DPS aka Disco Party soundtrack. Next they went to speak with the Hathi, who turned out to be in charge of the catering. She revealed to them about having commissioned a cake but heard that it was destroyed. Hearing this made Naruto and Ralsei feel nervous as they realized that Darkner is talking about. She was referring to the top cake that Suzy messed up before they got it fixed and returned to the top chef. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Hathi excused herself to see who it is and soon returned with the very top cake in question, eliciting joy from Clover. Suzy tilts her head in mild curiosity. "Hey, that cake looks kinda familiar." "Of course it would, considering that it's the very one you took a bite out of," thought Naruto, now realizing that he and Ralsei somehow managed to save Clover's birthday party from becoming a disaster. Soon after, the music was paused just so everyone could sing, "Happy Birthday," to Clover and for her to blow out the candles on the cake. But then it was time for Naruto and Ko to take their leave, and they made it known to the Darkner. "Aw. That's too bad, but we're glad that you came," said the happy head with a smile. The haughty head scoffed, "Not like it was necessary for you to come in the first place." "But we really appreciate it though," said the timid head meekly but grateful nonetheless. Ralsei nodded with a smile, "You're most welcome, and we enjoyed ourselves too." "She's right, we definitely had fun," Naruto added in agreement. "Well, the cake was good, so I'll at least give you that, but I could have sworn that I tasted it somewhere before," said Suzy, frowning in thought at the end of the sentence. After bidding Clover, Hathi and the Ruden farewell before leaving the room, the trio resumed on their objective as they went over to the stairway and ascended to the next floor. Upon arriving at the next floor, Naruto immediately sees a save point and goes over to interact with it. After making a save, he gets a location name of Card Castle, 5F, which means they're currently on the 5th floor. They're almost close to reaching the king. Unbeknownst to Naruto, after he interacted with the save point, Suzy and Ralsei watched him interact with something on the wall, and this became the norm for them as they still don't understand what he's touching, as if he's seeing something to interact with while they can't see what he sees. Okay, seriously, what the hell is he even touching right now? What is he seeing that we don't? Suzy whispered to Ralsei, since she's been with Naruto the most throughout this whole ordeal. "I honestly don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I guess whatever he's seeing only he can see and interact with. I can only assume it's a human thing, maybe, Rousei whispered back while unsure herself given she's seen him do this more than once and her curiosity grew as to wonder just what exactly is he actually seeing that neither she or Suzy can see. Suzy remains silent although she really wants to know what is it Naruto is truly interacting because whenever he does something like this, it's like she feels herself being rejuvenated and healed, which is odd as she couldn't explain it but she's experienced this from the start at the Fields of Hopes and Dreams then at the forest after her fight with Naruto and now this. Seriously, how does he keep doing this and why only him? Perhaps she'll ask him sometime down the line. Maybe after once everything is over just to get some answers. For now, she'll shelve her questions for later. Anyways, now that they've reached the 5th floor, the trio continued moving through the corridor hallway where on the left is a general spade room and on the right appears to be a shop room. Lastly on the far middle is an elevator which means they can come back anytime on any floor they have already visited rather than taking the stairs again. The trio decided to go to the spade room to take a look inside. Upon entry, the room was a bit of a mess as there were holes and a music player on the floor. A bed shaped like a spade and a photo of a spade shape above the bed. However, the most noticeable thing in this room the trio recognized is the bicycle being lovingly tucked in bed and 4 pictures of a certain spade prince on the wall across where the music player is lying around. Well, I suppose we now know who this room belongs to if that bicycle and the 4 pictures weren't a dead giveaway, Naruto spoke, already believing that this room belongs to Lancer. It would appear so, Naruto. Rousei thought the same thing for she too believed this room belongs to Lancer as well as she stood next to Naruto. Suzy didn't say a word as she just looked around the room with a neutral expression. Apparently she's in deep thought as she gazes at Lancer's room. Well, it's best we leave his room alone and check out the shop. Let's go, you two, Naruto lets them know it's time to leave as he's walking towards the exit door. Coming. Rousei follows after him. However, before they left, Naruto notices that Suzy isn't following them which made him raise an eyebrow at her odd behavior. Suzy. Are you coming? He asked, wondering what's wrong with her. Yeah. You two nerds can go. I'm gonna remain here for a bit. I'll catch up with you both over at the next stairway, Suzy spoke after remaining silent for a while. This made Naruto stare at her for a moment. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Naruto continued to stare at her for a couple of minutes before answering. Alright, fine. We'll meet up at the next stairway. We won't take long. He decided to let Suzy stay in Lancer's room while he and Rousei left the room as Suzy watched them go. Suzy then stared at the room with a neutral expression before walking towards Lancer's music player then messing around with it to see what contents he listened to before playing of which it played a full of cartoon splat noises. This made her crack a smile at this as this is something Lancer would definitely listen to for laughs and probably herself too. Then her smile quickly disappeared at the thought as she just stood there thinking with a neutral expression again as she's in deep thought with everything that's happened up until now. Ugh, just thinking about all this is becoming a pain. Back to Naruto and Rousei, the two went over to the shop room that had a shop sign and a glass door as well before standing in front of the entrance doors while looking at the other room where Suzy is still remaining in there. I hope Suzy is feeling alright. She was acting a bit odd for some reason, Rousei spoke up in worry for Suzy. Don't worry, I'm sure she's fine. It would probably be best if we give her some space until she feels ready. She'll most likely be alright as she waits for us at the stairway once we're done here, Naruto assured Rousei their purple companion will be fine. I sure hope so, she said, hopefully. Naruto just pats his hand on her shoulder to assure her she's a tough girl. She'll pull herself together. Rousei smiles at him with a bit of a blush before nodding to him cutely. Why yeah, you're right. I'm sure she'll be fine. He smiled back at her before giving her a shoulder hug which only made her blush increase at the proximity of how close he was to her but she ended up enjoying it as she accepted his shoulder hug by resting her head on his shoulder. Ha! You really know how to hug, Naruto, Rousei said, with a smile. Yeah, I figured this would calm your nerves. Did it help? Naruto asked. Oh, yes. Of course. It's just, I've never hugged anyone before besides the dummy, to test it out. So I don't know anything about it, sorry. She revealed she's technically new to this hugging thing since she's so used to being alone all the time, so this is still a new learning experience for her. I suppose I'm at least learning what it's like to be hugged by someone, and you're the one that's showing me how. Naruto mentally frowned at hearing this, then he realized she's a lonely princess who doesn't have any subjects of her own in her kingdom. It makes him feel bad for her knowing she doesn't have anyone to talk to or anything outside her kingdom. This only made him fully hug her, as he couldn't take her anymore, as she clearly needs one after hearing what she told him. Of course this action made Ralsei blush further at being engulfed by Naruto. Well, you're not alone anymore. You got me, and I guess Suzy. I'll be here whenever you need me. Just know that no matter what happens, I'll always be here right beside you till the very end. Don't hesitate to ask me for a hug, help, or anything in general. I'll always be available for you. Okay. He told her what needed to hear. Ralsei's eyes widened at this for a moment before feeling tears in her eyes, before hesitating to open her arms, before slowly but surely hugging him, before resting her chin onto his shoulder. Sniff. Thanks, Naruto. No one has ever said that to me before. I appreciate your kind words and always doing things for my sake. Sniff. I promise I'll always be by your side too. I'll follow you no matter where you go. Just thanks for everything you've done for me. You're a true friend and a true hero. She sniffled but smiled at how kind he truly is towards her. No problem, bud, Naruto smiled as he comforted her. After a couple of minutes of comforting Ralsei, she eventually calmed down as she stopped shedding tears. Feeling better now? Naruto asked. Better, Ralsei confirmed that she's feeling better now. He nods in response, letting go of hugging her, much to Ralsei's hidden disappointment. Just remember, I'm always available whatever you need me. If you want me to teach you how to hug, which you have slightly done before, or anything you may not possibly know, let me know. Think of this as me repaying you back for the tutorial you gave me back at the training grounds, he said with a comforting smile. Oh. Why, you don't have to repay me for that. I just wanted to prepare you for what you'll be facing while you're here. You just being here helping to seal the fountain is enough for me, but thanks for being considerate. That's so nice of you. She stuttered a bit at first as she fixated her glasses while wiping off her tears in the process, but appreciates him being considerate for her, which makes her really admire and respect Naruto greatly more than ever. Even low. Wait a minute. Where did that thought come from? Suddenly her face blushed brighter than before at the thought she conjured in her mind, which Naruto caught at her odd behavior as he noticed how red she looks right now. Hey, are you feeling alright? Your face is getting brighter by the second. He asked in concern while placing his hand above her forehead under her hat. I am fine. And nothing to worry about. Really? Ralsei stuttered as the heat was rising. You sure? Yeah. I am fine. Naruto looked at her for a moment due to her odd behavior she's showing, but decided to drop it since he doesn't want to push it. Okay, if you say so. Ralsei sighs in relief as her blush was starting to cool down now. But I gotta admit, seeing you flustered like that really makes you cute and adorable. And the blush is back in full force. Naruto. Ralsei embarrassedly pulls her hat down to cover her flushed face as she couldn't handle his compliments. Especially him calling her cute and adorable. Seeing her reaction only made Naruto laugh a bit at how easily flustered she got from being called cute and adorable. Honestly, it's enough to make him want to hug her again. After calming down, Naruto spoke. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Seeing how you react is just too cute. Ralsei didn't say a word because she's too busy keeping her blush in check while still holding down her hat to avoid exposing her sheer embarrassment. Nonetheless, she was very happy how he still finds her cute and adorable. It makes her feel all warm and fuzzy inside that she couldn't describe the foreign feeling. Anyway, I believe we've stood out here long enough. Let's go check inside this shop, okay? He said, ready to go inside the shop in question. Why yeah, okay. Right behind you, Ralsei spoke while managing to keep her flustered face in check as she let go of her hat while smiling at him. Although she's still slightly blushing but not to the major degree than before. Heh, cute, Naruto thought with a smile before while the two entered the shop to see what the place got in store. Welcome to my shop, you ungrateful worms, Ruzel's card greeted the current duo as the door was opened. He was laying on a table while moving his fingers at the sound of the theme of the shop. The place was barely decorated with a shade of blue on the walls with a few puzzle pieces on the wall behind him. Why am I not surprised that this is Ruzel's shop, Naruto thought, for he wasn't in the least bit surprised that the Duke of Puzzles runs this shop. Oh well, hopefully whatever he has would be helpful if he's willing to sell anything to them. He'll ask the man questions later since he's curious to see what Ruzel's has in store. Alright, Ruzel's, what do you have to offer us? He asked. What shalt thou buy? Naruto then started browsing the items to see what he had for sale. Ruzel's Rue $50. Brave Axe $150. Dainty Scarf $200. Amber Card $100. The items he has are actually not that bad as a start, but man, most of them are expensive. But I should be fine with the amount of dark dollars I acquired from getting into battles and managing what I spend that suits our benefit, he ponders as he thinks carefully on what he'll buy from Ruzel's before deciding on what he'll be getting. For starters, the Ruzel's Roux that looks like soup is some type of a fragrant sauce that heals 50 HP, which is not that bad to be honest. Next is a Brave Axe, which is a weapon clearly for Susie's use and it's got a heroic cool feel into it. Lastly is the Dainty Scarf that is a homemade healing up scarf for Ralsei's use for a weapon, which is the most expensive item that Ruzel's has in his shop. Of course he also has the Amber Card too, but he already bought one from Seam in his shop and gave it to Susie, so there was no need to get another in his opinion. After some consideration, he finally made his decision. Alright, I'm ready to make my purchase. Very good. What shalt thou be? Ruzel's asked, awaiting his selective choices. Okay, I'll take 2 Ruzel's Roux, 1 Brave Axe and 1 Dainty Scarf, please. Exactly pix. That shalt be 450 dark dollars. Naruto nodded as he pulled out his wallet, and as he did, he had a whopping $1,145 dark dollars in his wallet, much to his hidden surprise. What the how did I have this much cash? The fights alone shouldn't be the cause unless I'm missing something, he thought as he was thinking up on how his income was increasing, unless, of course, how could I possibly forget? My income increased because of TP. He totally forgot about that little tidbit about TP, aka tension points, that Ralsei explained to him during her tutorial. From what he remembers correctly, any encounter he and his team face will increase the TP bar, and at the end, any remaining TP will be converted to dark dollars. To be quite honest, he doesn't really pay much attention to TP since he really hasn't been using it much. Still though, he ought to remind himself about this important info before he forgets. Of course, he can always read the manual Ralsei gave him or just simply ask the fluffy princess herself for a recap, but that's besides the point. Anyway, he focused back on what he was doing, which he took out $450 and handed over to Ruzel's, which he accepted the cash. Thanks, Worm. Ruzel's thanked Naruto before giving him the items he requested, which he received and was added to his inventory. Anything else? Nah, I think we're good here, but is it alright if we ask you a few questions before we depart? Naruto asked, after the purchase was settled. What is thine intereste? Ralsei, who was silent for a bit, decided to ask Ruzel's a question. If you don't mind me asking, what can you tell us about yourself? I am's the Duke of Puzzles, Ruzel's card. My hobbies includest calligraphy, law-keeping, bug-keeping, cages and long walks in the dungeon. Arteist thou one of my admirers, Worm? Ruzel's asked Ralsei, but she shook her head, denying it in a slightly shy way. However, Ralsei's curiosity wasn't filled yet. So why are you selling items to us despite we're your enemy? Can you explain this to us, please? She asked. Ha ha ha. So I might amaseth funds, worms. An army of fun so that I may crushest thou like fermented grapes, into a most delicious and adult beverage, vengeance. Ahahaha. He laughed and paused for a few seconds. Oh, how I amuse myself. Naruto, remembering their objective, looked with a serious stare at Ruzzle's card before asking about a serious question as he spoke. Okay Ruzzles, what can you tell us about the one person nobody dared to disobey the king? Our Lord King art a cruel and terrifying monarch. However, he is also brilliant for he decided to appoint me, as Duke of Puzzles. After pretty muketh everyone else was fired or placed inside a cage, he smiled while boasting admitting that most people were arrested for yet unknown reasons. Truly, a benevolent ruler. The description Ruzzles gave made both Naruto and Rousei pick him as a terrifying and merciless creature that destroyed anyone to do what he pretended to do. Despite it, none of them lost hope about continuing. Far from it. His son, on the other hand, is more troublesome than a fistful of fleas. He began again, he always asks me the worst queries, and calleth me his lesser dad. Our relation is none, you little water beetle. I placate you for your father's sake. I do not wiseth to hear your MP3. I would rather listen to the sweet song of death. He said very loudly but stopped, realizing how exaggerated he was being. How is he, anyhow? The puzzle maker asked winking, showing that he cared for Lancer after all. Both Naruto and Rousei just sweat drop at how he ranted negatively a bit about Lancer, then the next he asked us about how he's doing. Talk about an odd man Ruzzles is. The two decided to just leave now without further words to the Duke after that whole rant Ruzzles just did. Plus, their questions were all answered, which was all they needed to hear. See thou in the dungeon, worms. The puzzle maker bid them farewell, to which Naruto and Rousei didn't respond back and just left his shop without a word. After leaving Ruzzle's shop, neither of the two said a word before Naruto breaking the silence. So we can agree that Ruzzles is an odd and strange man, right? Yes, I'm afraid I'll have to agree with you on that statement. But at least he cares for Lancer in his odd way of showing. Rousei agrees with him while happy the Duke at least cares for Lancer despite his earlier rant. Well, at least we got something out of it. We got new items and new information about the king. We just gotta keep moving forward and soon, we'll reach the king in no time, he said with a determined smile. I couldn't agree more. We're almost reaching the end of our journey. We can do this. Rousei cheered a bit since it wouldn't be long before they reached the king and finally seal the fountain. Naruto nodded before checking the items in his inventory stats he purchased from Ruzzles through his equip option. He doesn't really need the brave axe, but it's mainly for Suzy since she uses an axe as her main weapon. But for the dainty scarf, he's definitely gonna give this to Rousei since the information he's getting is that this delicate scarf can increase his healing power but has no attack. This is definitely perfect for someone like Rousei considering she's a healer. He took the dainty scarf out of his armors and gave it to Rousei. Here, take this scarf. This'll help you increase your healing magic in case we're in serious trouble. Definitely suitable for your liking. Rousei nodded and thanked him with a smile as she graciously accepted the scarf and equipped it. Once she switched over her red scarf to dainty scarf after wearing it around her shoulders while carefully attached to the hat, she felt her healing magic increase like it buffed her up. Plus, the scarf feels nice like her personal red scarf. I'll protect everyone. She happily exclaimed dramatically as if she felt energized by the new scarf she was given. Naruto smirks at her for being dramatic as he knew she would love it. Yeah, you definitely look like you'll protect everyone in a more heroic way now. Just don't get too carried away, okay? Oh. My apologies, I guess I got a little too excited. Rousei blushed with a smile as she rubbed the back of her head embarrassingly. No worries. Anyway, Suzy should be waiting for us over at the stairway if she's done whatever she was doing in Lancer's room. Let's go, he suggested, with Rousei nodding in agreement. The duo head over to the stairway and Naruto's assumption was spot on. Suzy was indeed waiting on them as she impatiently folded her arms while tapping her fingers before taking notice of their arrival. About freaking time. I was wondering how long you two losers would be in that shop. Any longer and I would have just left you two bozos behind until you both caught up, Susie said with impatience as she's been waiting for them for a while after leaving Lancer's room. Naruto rolled his eyes while Ralsei apologized. Sorry Susie. We were gathering some information and purchasing new items to further help us. Whatever. You're here now, so let's not waste any more time than we already have. Let's go, she said as she's ready to head on through the stairway. Hold up, before we continue any further, I got you a new weapon. Naruto stopped her. He quickly went to his inventory and took out the brave axe from his equip option and showed it to her. Okay, first of all, where and how did you make that axe appear out of nowhere? Second of all, why? I'm fine with what I have, Susie asked in mild curiosity since she never saw him summon things out of thin air like that. Also, the axe in question doesn't look all appealing to her, so she's perfectly okay with the axe she already has. Don't question it, it's just something I can do. Also, I figured getting you a new weapon would change it up a bit. I'm making sure both you and Ralsei are good to go before we eventually face the king. After all, I've given you that amber card from Seam's shop back at the Fields of Hopes and Dreams for defense. So just accept it that I once again went out of my way to get you something to stay in battle, he explained while handing her the brave axe. Susie just stared at the axe for a couple of minutes before reluctantly accepting the brave axe. Well, I suppose if I have to. Naruto watched her take the axe from him and equipped it. She still kept her main axe, which is fine if she wants to switch it up should the brave axe not work out for her, which he'll understand. Alright, we're all set, he said as everyone is ready and prepared. Naruto. Shouldn't you have gotten some defense as well? Ralsei asked. It's fine. At the moment, I don't technically need much armor since I'm quicker on my feet and I have other ways to protect myself. Besides, I technically have armor, which are these iron shackles which I'm wearing right now if you recall our time imprisoned in a dungeon cell and the Rager scarf that became sentient, so I'm fine for now, Naruto assured the fluffy princess that he's capable with or without armor. Heh, I was wondering what's with the iron shackles you got going on. I wasn't gonna say anything because I wasn't interested, but now you mentioned it, I was gonna think you're trying to copy my style or something. Susie smirks, thinking Naruto is trying to be like her in some way since she's wearing spiked bracelets on her arms that complements her badass outfit. Please, in what universe would I ever want to copy you? I'm just simply making use of what I found. If it'll help and give me armor, then I'll take it. I like to keep myself resourceful and not leave anything empty-handed if all possible, he explained himself. The mere thought of copying Susie feels revolting to him. Susie rolled her eyes at this, putting her arms behind her head. Yeah, whatever you say. Now are we gonna go now or what? Yes, we can go. With everything out of the way, the trio proceeded through the stairway as they continued to the next floor, hopefully being the last one. Immediately after they arrived. There, a voice spoke once again. Enough, worms. The yet unexplored floor was covered in light and the Duke of Puzzles showed himself. Thou may have cheated through mind puzzles, but in combat, thou shalt be scattered about. Come, knaves. Prepareth for battle with. He stepped aside and teleported a familiar enemy to the room, whatever this is. Ha! It's the enemy from earlier. Ralsei widened, recognizing the shape of the creature. It was clear who it was now. The checker piece who became king and unexplainably owned legs with it, but its crown looks different. It looks the same, Susie said, almost whispering, confused at what the differences were. Yes. With my control crown I mayst control any disc-shaped lifeform. Ruzzles laughed and started slowly walking to the FUNN gang. Each step makes a bigger sound than the last one. Oh no. It looks like it's in pain. It looks the same. Susie screamed. Yes, the control crown is painful, but I'm certain this creature will feeleth relief when it sees how much more pain THULL be in. He spoke with satisfaction and left the room to let his puppet battle. Made a big sound again, approaching them at a dangerously close distance. And with that, a rematch started. Here it comes. Again. Naruto, Suzy, and Ralsei found themselves fighting a familiar foe once again as a consequence of Ruzel's card's control crown. Round was merely a puppet at that point, someone without a will, a mere puppet that desired the destruction of the so-called heroes of light. It had a smile of innocence yet an evil look lying behind it and powerful crushing legs. However, they wouldn't give up without a fight. Naruto, remembering how it was defeated last time, went over to ACT and was about to select Bao while also noticing another option, which is Suzy's idea that involves both Suzy and Ralsei. He doesn't know what this leads to, and the fact it's an option that involves Suzy, it could end up hurting Ralsei, so he decided to ignore that option and went over to bow for the king to make the crown loose and fall. Round bowed back, but the effect was merely noticeable. It was learned after the last fight. Well, this poses a problem, he said, seeing that bowing isn't doing much compared to before. Ha! That hardly did anything. How can we push off that crown? Ralsei widened in shock after seeing the little effect it had. Suzy murmured, thinking to herself. Right after the failed attempt, the Checker King began targeting Naruto as it jumped high in the air and tried to crush Naruto's soul with a terrifying ground PND. He managed to avoid it by little, almost getting squeezed by its giant legs while sighing by a tiny bit as its turn had ended. Round shuffles furiously. Naruto tried to bow again, hoping this time it would work. Unfortunately, Round bowed back once again and the effect was very small. It's still hardly working. Whatever can we do, Naruto? Ralsei smiled kindly, trying to hide the uncertainty of the battle. I'm working on it, bud. Seeing that bowing isn't doing much good, we need to find another alternative to get that crown off of it, he said, thinking of other options to make that Checker King loosen that crown. Hey, Suzy called, and Naruto looked at her. It seemed that whatever it is, she has an idea, and that somewhat concerns him. Before she could speak, Round started kicking star-like projectiles at Naruto again. They were slow, but many were thrown at a time. He used his Sakamoto to block and deflect the incoming projectiles, almost narrowly getting hit in the process, but luckily he managed to survive its attack as the Checker King stopped launching star-like projectiles at him, thus ending its turn. Round shuffles furiously. Sigh, I'm gonna regret this for what I'm about to do. I could just simply keep trying by continuously bowing, but something tells me it's not gonna turn out the same way like before unless we do it persistently, which it'll turn to be a hassle. Plus, Suzy might potentially try to get my attention along with Ralsei. That involves something she thought up. Geez, might as well hear her out on whatever idea she has, but I'm not gonna like this, Naruto thought while sighing in acceptance before reluctantly went over to act and begrudgingly selected Suzy's idea to see what she has to say. Suzy. You want to act? What's your idea? Ralsei said after realizing Suzy was willing to act. Well, how do I say this? I kind of need you for this one. That's fine, Suzy. I'll help. You want to apologize to it for earlier, right? She asked innocently. Nah, I just need you to stay still, Suzy answered, smiling, and grabbed Ralsei out of the blue, much to both Naruto and Ralsei's surprise. Whoa! What the heck, Suzy? What are you? He was about to ask Suzy what she's doing before she cut him off. Naruto. There's no time. We gotta get that crown off its head. Help me throw Ralsei at it. She requested, speaking very fast while Ralsei was widening and unable to do anything. You're out of your mind. We're not throwing Ralsei at the enemy. What would this accomplish other than putting her in mortal danger? He was beyond flabbergasted at what Suzy is requesting right now. Well, bowing clearly isn't gonna work this time, and you wouldn't want to resort to violence, so this is the best I got. Unless you want to waste your time bowing hopelessly in hopes that the crown loosens, which it won't, chucking Ralsei to get that crown is our only option. So come on, hurry up and help me out here. She argued with him while requesting his help once more. Naruto hesitated at first because he couldn't believe what he's even considering right now, seeing there was no other option that doesn't involve Suzy throwing Ralsei. Seeing there was no other way, he was about to agree to help her when the Ragger started flailing about. "Huh, what's the matter, Ragger?" asked Naruto confusedly. Somehow the sentient scarf managed to access his inventory and took out something which he immediately recognizes. "Wait, that's the baseball I received from Clover's birthday party, the one being the painted basketball." That's it. He tosses the painted basketball over to Suzy, who caught it after releasing Ralsei. "What's this for?" asked Suzy confusedly. "Instead of throwing Ralsei, you can throw this instead. This way neither side gets hurt. I'll have Ragger retrieve the ball afterwards," Naruto explained to her. Suzy stood there with the ball in her hand for a moment before responding with a shrug. "If you say so, just as long as we can get that crown off its head." Suzy prepared to throw the basketball while Naruto adjusted the angle. She needed help at throwing because her hair bangs got in the way and it made throwing more difficult. With the help of Naruto, Suzy was able to fling the basketball at the crown, making it almost fall. Right after the ball bounced, Ragger quickly extended to retrieve the ball and toss it, albeit roughly, over to Suzy. "You're doing it, keep it up." Ralsei cheered for the two, happy to see them working together and also relieved at not being used as a projectile to be thrown at it, which would have hurt a lot. Despite being more vulnerable than before, Round continued to attack furiously. It jumped even higher than before and charged a powerful stomp attack while aiming for Naruto once again. It then fell on the floor with a terrifying sound of rock being smashed and destroyed. As if the attack itself wasn't strong enough, pieces of the floor were sent flying after. Naruto managed to not get hit neither by the powerful stomp nor the debris of the crash as its attack ended. The crown is 40% loose. Suzy's idea surprisingly is working, however. This'll just make the fight more and more intense as the battle goes on. None of them haven't taken damage yet, but they were afraid of the damage those attacks could provide. Even Suzy, although she was hiding it. When there was time to breathe, Suzy looked at Naruto, meaning she was ready to be thrown again. Naruto and Suzy readied themselves to throw the painted basketball and managed to hit the crown once again. This time the crown was inches from falling, but was yet to be defeated. On its next attack, it jumped and flew with its legs spread open and throwing star bullets at Naruto's soul. He tried to anticipate the attack but unfortunately ended up moving too early, and it resulted in the three of them getting damaged. He knew his soul is so resistant compared to monsters, however he's forgotten that every attack felt like a stab that makes it very hard to breathe, like he experienced down in the underground with Frisk. SHT. That hurt like hell. Although I'm a bit surprised both Suzy and Ralsei also took damage too after I was hit. Great, if they're tied to my soul then I have even more of a reason to not take any more damage in order to survive this. Naruto grunted from the pain as he lost a bit of his HP along with Suzy and Ralsei's HP, but was still able to continue after the Checker King ended its turn. The crown is 80% loose. Naruto immediately has Ragger retrieve the ball again and pass it to Suzy and told her to throw it so the battle could end before further damage. However, instead of hitting the crown, Suzy's aim was off as the ball ended up hitting S body and fell. To their surprise, however, the crown was so close to falling that the hit made it fall nonetheless. As the small golden crown fell off its head, Round broke free of Ralk's card control and returned to its original form, tiny and harmless. Naruto watched the Checker King becoming normal with a small sigh while Ralsei clapped at the victory and Suzy kept the axe without saying anything. You won. Got 0 EXP and $24. Thank goodness we managed to win that fight. Although I still couldn't believe that Suzy's idea actually worked after a bit of tweaking. I must admit that I didn't expect it to get knocked down along with the crown, but it worked out in the end, all things considered, Naruto thought, while taking a breather after that semi-tough battle. Ruzel's card became speechless after seeing the heroes had won yet again. He widened in shock and was afraid of what it could mean, but soon returned to his normal speech. Why, brilliant. Just brilliant. I knew you couldst do it. Thou great heroes, thou. Thou CF, that was merely a friendly test of thine abilities. He spoke hesitantly yet with a big smile when finishing. But thou hast won. And now, nothing blocks thine path. I, personally, could not be less of an obstruction. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 12. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.